Mr. Sabyasachi Ray, Mr. Mansukh Kothari, and Lata Venkateshji to please come on stage. Namaskar, a very good morning to all of you. And I'm Richa Anirudh, and I welcome you all to the second day of India Gold and Jewelry Summit. Hope you all had a great time last evening and are now fully refreshed and rejuvenated for an exciting day ahead, with lots of discussions and deliberations with a single aim to benefit all involved in gold and jewelry trade. Today, our first session is the viewpoint from policymakers. And I'm glad to announce the presence of our chief guest, Honorable Finance Secretary, Dr. Hasmukh Adhia, amongst us today. Welcome, sir. Dr. Hasmukh Adhia is an officer of the Indian Administrative Service, but apart from that, he's a gold medalist from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and he holds a PhD in yoga from Swami Vivekananda Yoga University, Bangalore. We are also pleased to have with us Mr. Aram Shishmanian, CEO, World Gold Council. Mr. J.K. Dadu, Additional Secretary and Financial Advisor, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Emre Koker, Turkish Treasury, Head of Domestic Debt Management Department. We welcome all of you once again, and I would now like to request all our dignitaries on stage to please for the lamp lighting. Thank you. May I now request Mr. Praveen Shankar Pandya, Chairman GJEPC, to welcome Dr. Hasmukh Adhia with flowers, memento, and shawl. Thank you. May I now request Mr. Sanjay Shah, Committee Member GJEPC, to welcome Mr. Aram Shishmanian. Requesting Mr. Anil Sankhwal, Regional Chairman. May I now request Mr. Anil Sankhwal, Regional Chairman North, GJEPC, to please welcome Mr. J.K. Dadu. And I would now like to invite Mr. Manoj Dwivedi, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, to welcome Mr. Emerick Coker. Thank you all. And may I now invite Mr. Praveen Shankar Pandya, Chairman GJEPC, for the opening remarks.
Honorable Finance Secretary and Revenue Secretary Shri Adya ji, leading dignitaries on the dais, it is my immense pleasure that we are hosting this Gold and Jewelry Summit in New Delhi after a period of about 17, 18 years. The first summit that we held, Adya ji, was when the country was under controlled regimes and was opening up gold for gem and jewelry industry. And that time, Deputy Governor Dr. Tara Purwala was the keynote speaker, and Commerce Secretary then. They together gave this policy of nominated agency to this industry. Adya ji, I have been closely working with him for last 2 years, and I must say that I haven't seen a person so forthright, bold, yet extremely fair to our demands. If he understands and gives it, decides that this is a good demand, he goes ahead and immediately gives it to us. But if he thinks that it cannot be given, he openly says, no, this cannot be given. And he has, I've seen him during excise, during GST, how closely he has been working with his team. So practically, I have worked for over 25 years with Finance Ministry, but I have never seen anybody who has a grip on almost everything under his ministry and under his control. Probably the yoga guru that he is probably the reason that he has such a fine grip on all the subjects. So in other words, we industry can never fool around with him. I must say, the decision like demonetization is once in lifetime decisions. And there have been a lot of criticism from various quarters in industry. But I can tell you about my industry, that what we were trying to achieve for last 40, 50 years, to stop transactions through Angadiyas and other things, we could not succeed in convincing our small and medium enterprises. But with this one bold step, all the Angadiyas have closed down. The transactions are not happening through Angadiya. So these are, and the industry has been, smaller people, they came to the council that, no, we want to open, we want to get the registration done. And we have sent teams across nation of experts to get them registered. And that is how the registration has increased. The transaction were all made through checks and official banking channels. So this is the effect of a bold decision. On GST, this was introduced something like after 70 years in this, and he and his team knew that there are going to be problems. But a bold step was taken, and then they are doing on continuously corrections. And they announced in the very beginning that it's not going to be that we will not listen to you. And as late as 10 days ago, we have been still discussing a lot of issues which he has been convinced and he's going to put forward before the GST committee. So this is how he works, and I am highly appreciative of that. Sir, I'm here on behalf of an industry who has done excellent job for last 50, 60 years, but has not got its due from the government and the perception it has created in the mind of the government officers here. See, in the world, we are regarded as leaders in diamonds, in jewelry, in colored gemstones, but in India, we still have some, perception which goes against us. So all the people, they are not highly educated, but they are very entrepreneurial, and they go forward and do things. And especially in gold and jewelry sector. Sir, we have been, since 1995, constantly increasing our exports, becoming more transparent in the domestic industry, and this is a journey which we have embarked upon. Unfortunately, the infrastructure that we had in 1995 and before that centuries old, which are, located near different Jhaveri Bazaars around the country, are now all dilapidated. We need strong infrastructure, something like jewelry parks, which is one-stop shop for all the 22 permissions that are required for opening a factory, supplies of gold, customs, all those things inside that jewelry park, and for which I have also spoken to Commerce Ministry. And apart from that, various other supply problems of metals and other things that can be taken care of. Sir, I'll deal with more on the policy issue, which we require in our industry in terms of gold supply. On and off, after 1998, there are 3 or 4 different agencies like RBI, Ministry of Finance, DGFT, and they all are not working in tandem to give a long-term policy to our industry. Sir, it is very important that we have a structured 5-year plan for the supply of gold to the industry. It is very essential that all the transparent players, we give them the right message that in the market, in the gray market, gold will not be available below the official price. And to do that, sir, we had till now 1% duty. It was raised to 5%. It was further raised to 10%. Now, a lot of gold is still coming in the gray market. And I feel, sir, if you reduce the duty from 10 to 5 or 4%, your revenue loss is not going to be high. But the impetus it will give to the industry will be so big that in next 10 years, I can tell you, the 5 top jewelers of the world would be Indians. Because I'm already seeing that, at least about 4 jewelers from India have gone ahead and opened shops across the world. They are not only in India and Middle East, they have gone to America, they are going everywhere. And this thing has to continue. I'll give you a small example of China. Roughly, India and China opened up almost simultaneously their gold and diamond imports. And India today is importing something like 500-600 tons and is exporting only about 10% of it. That means about $6-7 billion. And that also about $4 billion is going to Dubai. So I would roughly say that genuine jewelry export out of country is about $4 to $5 billion. While China, from 1998, has become the largest exporter of jewelry and has today become $17 to $18 billion. Now, they import about 35-40 billion, but half of it is re-export. Sir, we have the largest number of workers in this country. No other country has so many workers. And I can assure you that if proper policy and one single channel is given to this industry, we can become #1 by 2022. And I have set a target of 20 billion by 2022 and 25 billion by 2025 of exports from this country. And there is no reason, I see no reason that we cannot achieve this, because we have such, and this will give 3 million extra workforce employment to this country. And when we reduce the duty, see, the smuggling stops, and that increases the flow of gold so that you will get the same amount of revenue. Sir, we must also assure that, FTA, in terms of gold, is monitored very closely. Because when something like Korea or Indonesia happens, where 35 tons of gold comes without payment of 1% also, and the whole industry is made to pay 10%, then, the entire industry is disrupted. So that has to be taken care that as far as metals are concerned, no FTA should be signed below the duty level. Sir, the industry doesn't have any refund mechanism. The exporters are made to file so many things, the valuation report and this and that just now one exporter was here and he told me that he stopped exports because there were so many things and so many expenses that he had to incur that he said that it is better to sell in the domestic market. So we need to ease of doing business. ease of getting metal, ease of exporting, all that if it is done, then there is nothing that will stop us from becoming number one. Sir, one very important segment of our industry and our clientele is Indian diaspora and the tourists that come to India. Now, they normally about 15, 16 billion tourists, NRIs are there. They have all settled down very well in overseas countries. When they come to India, they want to buy jewelry. Earlier, they were buying because the custom duty was only 1%. So there was hardly any difference. But today, at 10% duty and 3% GST, they are preferring to buy jewelry overseas from Dubai or Hong Kong or Singapore or even in USA. What I'm suggesting that one simple mechanism what we can do that when they come to India and buy from any shop and pay through credit card or foreign exchange, then immediately that benefit of duty on that sale should be given by way of a script or something to that shopkeeper. So what happens, the NRI gets it cheaper, no tax is exported, and this will, I can tell you, alone will give us $2 to $3 billion additional exports. So, sir, this industry has never asked for any subsidy. It has, on its own merits, for last 50 years has become leader in several segments of our industry. For instance, in diamonds, for instance, in colored gemstones. And I'm making sure that it will become number one in jewelry also. But sir, we need some support. You see, all other sectors have got MIES on total their exports. We have never asked for it. But now since there is a great pressure on profitability, I feel that not on the exports, because that can be misused. I can tell you forthrightly that on total exports, if MIES is given, there is a likelihood of misuse. But sir, on value addition, if whatever the industry is doing value addition, on that if MIES is given, this will go a long way in meeting the needs of our industry. And the profitability which is missing will come back. Sir, another very important thing is the bank finance. In the earlier years when we were growing in exports, this was regarded as an thrust sector, priority sector, and various kind of schemes were offered to us. Today what is happening that the banks have become free and private banks are charging enormous interest rates, and the credit rating system for this industry is completely missing. When the banks ask for credit rating, the credit rating to best of our people are given junk ratings. So what happens, the bank from small exporters asks for 50 to 100% to 150% of collaterals, so they refuse to take the loans. So if some mechanism can be found where these credit rating agencies can sit with the ministry and the council and they are made to give a special rating to this industry, then, and there are certain norms fixed, because the rate of interest varies on the credit rating. So smaller people are made to pay very high interest rates, while they never go bankrupt. If you see 50 years of history, the smaller people, and in our industry, smaller people do business up to 100 crores, but they never go bankrupt. So a mechanism has to be found where, the bank finance is available to them. Sir, China is our main competition. They allow job work. So when somebody is either sending gold or even in case of diamonds, from Dubai, suppose somebody is sending, from Belgium somebody is sending, it is going there, value addition happens, and it is re-exported. In India, we essentially have to buy the goods, manufacture it, and then send it. So that mechanism of job work is completely missing here. If we can set up a committee to understand this complete work and give it, this alone will give us 500,000 additional jobs. So my take is this, that on job work, if we create a special committee to look into all the aspects, then this will be a great, this thing. On gold, sir, I think spot exchange, they will be speaking on it. All these are tools which need to be brought in. But sir, adequate safeguards are required. Whether we do futures, whether we do options, derivatives, these are tools of the modern this thing. It could be delivery less, so India's import can be reduced. When people want to invest, then it can be on paper, but sir, adequate safeguards are required. So I think the committee, sir, that you set up can also look into this and give us those things, and with adequate safeguards, then I'm sure, sir, the import will reduce, but on paper, those who want to invest can invest. And when the delivery takes place, then all the custom and GST can be levied. And while the transaction is happening on paper, something like security transaction fee or something like that can be taken to keep a trail of what's happening. So with this, sir, I think these are my submissions. My biggest worry is the, sir, gold duty. If that can be addressed, I think the industry will move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pandya, for your valuable suggestions and inputs. And I would now like to invite Mr. Aram Shishmanyan, CEO, World Council, to address the gathering.
Chairman Pandya, very thought-provoking comments that you've just made. Around the world, gold is becoming mainstream. An integral part of the financial system of countries around virtually every country, driven by two things. One is changes in government policy towards being pro-gold, and secondly, gold's continuing role as the constant of value, providing financial security. No more so than how it is evident in India today. At the Indian International Bullion Summit, which I attended in March, the conversation had been different to what I'd heard for many years, which was talk. At that meeting, I got a real sense that it had moved on from talk and a real call to action. Today, 8 months on, I sense further momentum. Beyond a call to action, to seeing tangible commitment and actions. I wouldn't underestimate the power of that. It is testament to my fellow speakers today on the podium that this is really going to happen. Honourable guest speakers, good morning. India, of course, is a key player in the world gold market. You represent nearly 25% of world demand and the highest holdings of gold anywhere in the world at 23,000 tons. That's over $1 trillion. but demand is 21% below the 5-year average, having important consequences to your country in terms of employment and economic contribution. The modest recovery this year of 77% is a real cause for concern. Because the industry does protect handcrafting skills, sustains millions, approximately 7 million in employment, particularly in the unorganized sector, and enables millions of people and households to save, not least at the low income levels who are disenfranchised from the financial system. Gold is their currency of saving. Yet, when it comes to policy discussions, it is preoccupied with current account deficit considerations. It seems it is seen as a challenge to the macroeconomic stability of the currency, and also it is considered to have a low economic multiplier effect. As long as the elements of the Indian gold industry continue to operate in a parallel grey market, enabling illicit activities, these challenges will persist. In recent years, the government has initiated multiple reforms to put India onto a new growth trajectory, focus on transparency and better governance, and to bring finance and commerce into the official sector. The country is poised, absolutely poised, to become one of the world's leading economies. Vibrant, a new world for India. It is critical that the negative elements within the gold industry, which is operating in the shadows, comes out and becomes part of the mainstream of India. Without doing so, I fear that many of the government's reforms could be stifled with a parallel negative economy, and gold will be left behind. The industry will be left behind. Gold is intrinsic to India's social and economy. You know it a million times better than I because it runs in your veins. It absolutely can be the vehicle for supporting economic growth, for generating employment, for protecting households and providing them financial security, and for consumers to provide them confidence in the product that they buy. To be a valuable mainstream asset for the nation, particularly as the economy now is on the point of rapid growth. Could I have the slide, please? The case for a broad-based policy framework has never been stronger. The framework necessary is to help guide both policymakers, government, and the industry over the coming months, years, and maybe decades to bring about the necessary reforms in the country. We see that there are really 4 pillars of reform that need to be put in place, 4 levels of capability. Consumer protection at the very heart, creating organized markets, both trading and logistics, ensuring households can continue to deploy gold for financial security, and of course, making India enabling greater employment and economic growth. All of these can be addressed by implementing standards, infrastructure, integrating the industry into the mainstream of Indian finance and commerce, and of course, the Make in India initiative. All these are very clear. All these are very, very straightforward. Reform, however, as we all know, is a complex and fraught undertaking, needing many different stakeholders, many different perspectives, and addressing many vested interests. Reform, of course, means change. Change means disruption, but without that, a new norm will not be established. Therefore, there must be a deep belief and courage to shape the future of the gold industry in India. It is for all of us, everyone in this room, to take that leadership responsibility, because to me, that imperative is clear. We need to embrace a structured and a structural change in the nature of the gold industry. The items you see in white is all about leadership. It is all about the critical issue that we should address. How to do it is easy. What needs to be done is easy. It is the key policy consideration, which is how do we bring government and political will to support the transformation? And equally, how do we bring the trade, the real engine for that reform, to speak and act with one voice, and not as competing factions, confusing the marketplace, so that policymakers can be informed as to what is the art of the possible, and for the trade not only to inform government, but to help translate policy directives and ensure that they are implemented, and to address the needs of consumers, the trade, the government in a cohesive manner. Gold is a raw material that millions of artisans in India use, a preferred saving instrument. That ecosystem needs to be protected, nurtured, and developed. It is not about discarding it. And therefore, a roadmap for stage implementation to mitigate unintended consequences is crucial. Mr. Pandey mentioned China earlier. The key reason for China's success is that both government and the industry worked absolutely hand in hand for the past 20 years. It is a great model to consider. There are a raft of activities to be done, and the chart shows a list of them. I will not go through all of them, but I will touch on a few important aspects. First of all, hallmarking. Mandatory hallmarking is essential to protect consumers and to advance the industry, both domestically, but if the aspiration to create $20 billion of gold sales per annum, the product has to have absolute integrity. And the work that the BIS is doing should be commended in that regard. But the journey is not restricted only to the industry. The pathway to product purity must also be embraced by Indian consumers, who perhaps have been lulled into a false sense of security through historical trusted family jewelers that the product they have is absolutely pure. We know that's not always the case. And there is a need to take action to make that awareness greater amongst consumers, because that will be self-fulfilling for the industry. Of course, there is a lack of assaying skills in the country, and together with the MMTC and PAMP and leading trade associations, the Assay Institute has now been established. It will create a new generation of qualified assayers to match industry best practice worldwide. I commend the trade for doing that. The second important aspect is the Indian Spot Exchange. It would enable the monetization of household gold and increase the circulation of domestic gold, thereby stabilizing, to a degree, the impact of imports. It will usher in the necessary price transparency and will help provide a fair and efficient and effective trading market. bringing trade and value to India that today is done by consignment, and that whole economic value chain is the preserve of others. It is impressive that the industry has already coalesced and that there's a steering committee working on the blueprint for the exchange. And I know we will be hearing about that shortly. In parallel to that, it'll be very important for the regulatory landscape for trading markets to be also resolved in the near term. One aspect of today's agenda does not include household financial security. And I can understand that because we're focused on exports. But financial investment, gold investment through the financial system needs to become a legitimate mainstream activity. Indians understand gold provides financial security, but the very financial system that you rely on doesn't enable it. There are many, many examples around the world how those two needs can be reconciled. As regards Make in India, Indian strength in jewelry manufacturing can be leveraged and focused, as we've heard yesterday and earlier today. And I think the ambition to generate $20 billion of revenue, that's approximately 5 million more employees in the industry against the current 5 million, potentially that can be achieved. What I would also guard against is not to get too enamored with exports alone. After all, you represent 15% of world jewelry demand already, and that industry, that sector in your country is growing, and you should help develop that in parallel. There is a need to update design, manufacturing, and merchandising for the millennials, whether they be Indian nationals or your target markets internationally. They have differing aspirations, lifestyles driven by new norms that some of us don't understand, technologies and social media. Of course, innovation centers will be helpful in this, as will manufacturing parks to get efficiencies of scale and quality. And if I stand here 8 months from our last meeting, if I just stretch our horizon to 8 years and say, what will we be talking about? If this really does happen, what will it look like? Employment would have doubled, a vibrant domestic market, as well as an export market, product integrity to protect your fundamental consumers who you rely on, price transparency, an efficient exchange market supported by logistics with a credible investment market. In essence, to become mainstream and out of the shadows, playing your rightful role in the world of gold. As I've said, as leaders of the industry, we have a responsibility to drive that reform and to bring all the key stakeholders together. The needs of the nation, the needs of policymakers and regulators, companies, which ultimately are the engine for change, and pivotal are the consumers. We at the World Gold Council remain absolutely committed to playing our part in supporting you with that reform, to bring not only a reform but industry best practice. And over time, I look forward to celebrating a new future for gold in India together with you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arum. And may I now invite Mr. Emre Koker, Turkish Treasury Head of Domestic Department Management, Debt Management Department, to share his thoughts on the subject with all of us.
Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of Turkish Treasury, I want to thank you for this great opportunity. Today I prepared a presentation to share our Turkish experience on a new two instruments, which is called Gold Bond and Gold Sukuk. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Okay. As in India, gold is an important place in our economy. It is not a traditional investment, but also it's on our daily life. For example, we give gold as present in our ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, or on a new baby celebration ceremonies. But the problem is that the holders of gold, the investors, are holding this gold out of financial system. So as a policymaker, as Turkish Treasury, we created two new instruments to bring this idle gold into the financial system. In the beginning of the project, we have selected our target investor base, and we choose the retail investors. So only retail investors can invest to these two new instruments. After selecting the investor target, we also analyze the demand and the needs of the investors. So by making this analysis, we created two new instruments. One of them is a conventional bond, which pays interest. The second one is sukuk, which pays rent income to the investors. Because some of the investors in Turkey do not want to receive interest for religious purposes. For this reason, we created two new instruments. And by taking into account their needs, we created these instruments in such a way that at the end of the investment period, the investors can receive the physical gold at the end of the maturity. In the third step, we find out an intermediary institution to be able to reach the investors. So we selected a public bank as an intermediary institution to be able to reach the investors easily, because this public bank has lots of branches all over the country. So what are the key features of these instruments? The maturity is a 2 years maturity. The securities pays every 6 months coupon payments or rent payments. And the coupon rate or the rent rate is 1.2% for each coupon. It's annual 2.4%. The important thing is that the coupon payments are indexed to the gold prices, and we pay the coupon payments in local currency. For the incentive purposes, we decrease the tax, withholding tax, to 0%. In fact, in other securities in Turkey, the withholding tax is 10%. However, for the incentive purposes, only for these instruments, we decrease the withholding tax to 0%. Moreover, the liquidity of the securities are important, because as you know, if you hold a gold, you can easily liquidate in a jewelry shop, and you can easily finance your expenditures. So the liquidity is really important for this type of securities. For this reason, we created these instruments in such a way that the investors can easily sell back the security to the intermediary bank before the maturity, and they can receive principal plus the agreed return in local currency. So it's similar to holding a gold in your pocket. If you want to finance your expenditure, you can easily sell your gold, or you can easily sell the securities back to the intermediary bank. Moreover, the investors can transfer the security to another individual investors via the bank accounts. I tried to create a few slides for the issuance procedure. It's a little bit technical, but forgive me. In the issuance procedure of the gold bond, we have 4 parties: the investors, the intermediary bank, the refinery, and the treasury. The issuance procedure in such a way that the investors go to the intermediary bank and submit their gold to the experts of the refineries in the intermediary bank. The experts analyze the gold, and at the end of the day, they transfer this gold to the refinery, because the aim is to convert this physical gold into standard gold. Later, this refinery submit the golds to intermediary bank, and when the intermediary bank submit this gold to Turkish treasury, we issue the bonds to the investor accounts in the intermediary bank. It takes at least 10 working days. But during this period, we open a deposit account in the intermediary bank. And after at most this 10 days period, we issue the security to the investment account of the investors in the intermediary bank. This is the issuance procedure of gold bond, which is similar to the issuance procedure of sukuk. However, in a sukuk issuances, there is one more step. There is an SPV, which is called the Special Purpose Vehicle of the Treasury. This is a special company. In fact, in the sukuk world, the issuer of the sukuk, in fact, this Special Purpose Vehicle company. The Special Purpose Vehicle company issued the sukuk, but the collection of the gold is similar to the gold bond. The SPV receives the gold and uses this gold to take over an asset from the government, and then lease back this asset to the government to receive a rent income. Because in the sukuk world, the SPV distribute the rent income to the investors, not the interest. But the issuance procedure is same. At the maturity, the treasury or the SPV for the sukuk delivers the standard gold to intermediary bank at the maturity. The investor has two options. They can choose the standard bars, gold bars in 1 kilogram, or they can choose the gold coins. If they want to receive gold coins, then the intermediary bank delivers these gold bars to Turkish State Mint. This is a public institution which prints gold coins. Then these gold coins are distributed to the investors via intermediary bank. So intermediary bank, refineries, Turkish State Mint, and the Treasury are the main partners in this project. So in fact, this is a combination of two different security. This is an hybrid instrument. Why this is an hybrid instrument? Because at the beginning, we are collecting gold, and at the end of the investment period, we are distributing the gold. Because this is a psychological effect. As you know, the investors, the individuals, the households want to hold their gold, want to see their gold. So this is a positive psychological effect for the investors to bring their gold to the security. On the other hand, during the maturity, we are paying the returns in local currency, but indexed to the international gold prices. What is the result of the issuances? We had accomplished this issuance on October, and at the end of the 1 month, we could collect 2.5 tons from all over the country. And when you look at the results, 53% of the investors demand sukuk, and total number of investors is around 13,000. And the number of women investors is higher than the number of men. And the age of the investors is between, most of them is 18 to 34. So this is the summary of the roadmap of Turkish experience. First of all, we determine our target investors, because you can design your security depending on your target investors. You can choose retail investors, as in Turkey, you can choose institutional investors, or you can choose both. But depending on your investors, you can design your securities. The second one, we determine the needs of the investors. In Turkey, as I said before, the investors demand both sukuk and regular bond. And also, we put the physical delivery option depending on the needs of the investors. And finally, of course, the incentives are important. The return rate and the tax advantage are the main incentives of this security for the Turkish people. And also, the most important thing, of course, the legal background and the standards of the gold. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Emery Coker. And I guess this is the moment you all have been waiting eagerly for, to hear Finance Secretary Dr. Hasmukh Adia. May I please invite you, sir, to address the gathering.
Good morning to all of you. The President of Gem and Jewellery Export Promotion Council, Mr. Pandya, CEO of the World Gold Council, Mr. Aram, my colleague from the Turkish Treasury, who is here, other dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Since we are running a little bit behind the time, and I want to give some chance to Lata to ask me some searching questions. So I will make only 3 points, and then I would like to leave the rest of it by way of a question-answer session, which is more interesting than giving speeches. My first point is that we are conscious of the fact that jewelry industry is an industry of great importance to the country from the viewpoint of job creation. So the policy neglect that Praveen Shankar Pandya has talked about cannot remain. There is no question of government neglecting this industry. We are conscious that this is an industry which can create a lot of employment for people. And that's why, if the industry feels that there is some amount of policy neglect, we will try and remove it. My second point is that as on today, the jewelry industry, gold and jewelry industry, is more for domestic use. India is the largest consumer of gold, one of the largest, and also we have a preference for buying more and more jewelry and also storing a lot of gold. But we must, as the council has also outlined, we must set targets for making gem and jewelry industry an export-oriented industry. And our export at one time should become more than the domestic demand. This should be the goal, and I'm sure the council has also, Praveen Bhai talked about a goal of $25 billion, right? By 2025. So we can all achieve this goal, and we are with you. We will try and help you in this. My third point is that we have gone through 2 major structural reforms recently: demonetization and GST. Now, both these reforms have helped removing the parallel economy to an extent which is there. And I'm sure this reduction, if not removal, of parallel economy is something which is going to help this industry as well in a big way. Whenever there are honest taxpayers doing their business, having their industry, and there are other people who are evading taxes, the honest are the ones who are losing the game. So this is an attempt to promote those honest entrepreneurs and traders who are conscientious, who want their business to be straightforward, who want to pay all the taxes, and who don't want any harassment from government or from income tax department or any department. Now, these are the people who are going to be helped by this effort of demonetization and GST. We are conscious of the fact that your biggest demand is, as far as I'm concerned, because most of your demands are with the Commerce Ministry. But as far as Finance Ministry is concerned, your biggest demand is for reduction of custom duty on gold. It's not that we want any, again, parallel economy there, because the higher the duty, there'll be an incentive for somebody to bring gold without taxes, and then again a parallel economy exists. We are conscious of this fact. But we must also understand that this is a year of GST. For the first time, we have gone in for a complete transformation of our indirect tax system in the country, both at the state level and the central government level. And we have to watch for a few more months the GST revenue trend for Government of India as well as state. And then we can venture into some more decisions which are again helping the same cause of removing the parallel economy. Because some of this decision will again dent the balance sheet of the Government of India. But still, we are conscious of this fact, and we will keep it in mind. I'm told by Praveen Bhai recently, I think there is a decision by Dubai to put some duty, custom duty 5%. Now that should bring down the gap at least in the competition, because you were saying that most of the people go to Dubai and buy their jewelry, and also it helps them. No?
They would also be domestic manufacturing would go, so that will be there for NRIs and diaspora.
Yeah, that is fine, yeah. But also this would be an opportunity to bring some of the industry from Dubai to India. So that is something which we can look at. But yes, we will keep it in mind. Having said these 3 points, I think I must stop here. I'm not an expert on gold industry. It is the Commerce Ministry's baby. My colleague, Additional Secretary from Ministry of Commerce, unfortunately, I requested him to postpone his speech after I speak because I have to leave early. So they are there to look after you, and I'm sure they are doing a lot. I'm told the industry is predominated by a lot of Gujaratis. And when there is a government officer who is also from the same community, you have no reason to think that we will be unbusinesslike with you. We'll be more businesslike with you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And since we've heard all our eminent speakers, now it's time to request Lata Venkatesh, Executive Editor, CNBC, to take the discussion forward.
Well, actually, since Mr. Adia is in a hurry, Mr. Adia, may I request you to come here, sir, so that we can concentrate the first few questions to you. Well, I'm the outsider here, so I'm the non-Gujarati, I guess. Okay, well, the first question is the statement that you made. The industry's big demand is the reduction of import duty. Now, I was making a rough calculation. It's about $3 billion a month that is imported in the form of gold. So that's about $35 billion a year, 2.2 lakh crore. 10% is 22,000 crore. Are you willing to give up that and make it 11,000 crore? Is that the only hurdle?
No. One fact is that the import of gold also keeps fluctuating from year to year. Sometimes it is 1,100 tons, sometimes it is 800 tons, sometimes it is 600 tons. So it depends on how you calculate. But our rough estimate is that it's a loss of 25,000 crore per annum.
Yes, the entire gold duty comes to around 25,000 crore.
Per annum.
Yes.
We'll see. As I mentioned, it is a big dent, but Praveen Bhai's point of view that probably if you reduce the rate, there might be better compliance also. But that better compliance will not exactly be 50% more, probably.
Okay.
I mean, or 100% more. So we'll have to see. The calculations are...
Exports will increase.
Yeah, that's true.
No, exports, employment, everything.
Employment
But no, the dissonance is that you were willing to see the justice when it came to GST, when it came to the domestic tax. If that is 3%, the gap is very wide between the custom duty and the GST.
Yes.
You understood that, I mean, you appreciated that domestically the loss of revenue and the cash transactions in gold will increase if the GST is increased. Why not extend the argument to imports and exports?
No, the problem is that gold is imported not only for making jewelry. The gold is also imported for storing in form of biscuits. You know? So that's a problem. But anyway, we will sort of look at this decision in its entirety. And I do agree with you that since we have treated the gold jewelry industry separately in the GST structure also, there is a reason to.
Okay.
Because it's an employment generating industry.
So should one expect a decision sometime soon? Is it on the table? Is it something as close as the budget, or is it a distance away?
This is the problem with media people. They want to know the exact.
No, approximate. Sir.
Can't say.
Okay. Well, the other...
You can't make me commit saying, no, something will come in the budget, or something will come before the budget, or something will come 3 months after the budget. That is something I cannot commit,
No, I perfectly understand. I don't know if the axe has already fallen in terms of time bar on budget. I didn't want you to violate that time bar at all. I think that comes in December, so you still
It has
have...
already started.
Okay. All right. Okay, so long as it's a commitment and an understanding, I guess the industry has something to look forward. So the other request which the industry repeatedly has is that gold is nobody's baby and everyone's baby. It's to some extent, as you said, the Commerce Ministry's key area of focus, but the duty obviously falls on Finance Ministry. And often RBI is an interested party because it is interested in keeping the current account deficit down. And it is always perceived that you can't do much about oil imports, you don't want to do anything about engineering imports, and so the axe normally falls on gold. If current account deficit is wide, then gold is seen as the problem. The point I'm making is that there are many people who are making policy, who are interested parties. So the industry's request is that you have a gold board or a gold ministry, or all decisions of gold are taken in one ministry. Is that something that the government is considering?
No, actually, there are multiple regulators who are involved in the gold jewelry industry. I agree with you. But we have never tried to restrict the import of gold, because current account deficit is not a big problem for us now.
No.
It is not. So that's something which we have not done. Yes, the demand for creating a separate policy body which takes all the important decisions about gold is a welcome suggestion, and I don't know, it must be for the Commerce Ministry to initiate the discussion on that.
Well, one of the requests also is that there should be a spot exchange for gold, because you never know when you buy from a family jeweler or unbranded jewelers whether you're buying the right standard of gold. So, spot exchange again will fall in your ministry. That was another request, therefore, that one gold board or something be created. Is that, is there a time for that? That's not linked to the budget.
Yeah, actually, the decision about the infrastructure for the gold and jewelry industry, the decision about regulatory issues of gold standards, etc., the decisions about the availability of a spot exchange or commodity exchange for transparent dealings of gold. Now, these are all decisions which can be combined into a single multi-regulatory body, in which the representatives of all the regulators are there.
So what's the thinking on the spot exchange itself? There is a whole session devoted to it, so I don't want to preempt that session, but since we won't have you with us, is a
I'll
spot
be very
exchange.
frank with you, Lata, because the stock markets are part of the Department of Economic Affairs.
Yes.
That's a subject I am not very familiar with.
Okay.
I have dealt revenue for the last 2.5 years.
And you have a lot on your hands.
I have a lot on my hands. So I wouldn't like to comment on the entire issue of spot exchange for gold, because I myself don't know much about it.
Okay.
So maybe the DEA will respond to it.
But it will likely be with SEBI?
I don't know. I need to check.
Okay. Okay, fine. So the other request that came is the merchandise export from India scheme, MEIS. Is there any thinking to extend that as well to gold?
Well, my view is that the incentive of MEIS, number one, is something which may not last longer because of WTO provisions, It is something which we are carrying on for some time, but I think probably we'll have to put a full stop to it after some time.
Okay.
I think so, But the question is that can the industry or the businesses remain competitive only out of the government subsidy? This is a question we have to ask. Okay. And I think the industry should ask for a model of competition in which they are inherently competitive rather than depending on government subsidy for remaining competitive. So that should be our model.
Okay. Well, those were the preliminary questions. If you can hold on for a little bit more, I'm sure the audience has questions. So if you can please introduce yourself, sir. And
Sure. My name is Jindal from SOCHM, sir. In the industry, we feel that 25,000 tons of household gold and the gold which is in the country, if it is brought to the mainstream, if it is connected to the mainstream of business, main economy, then it will strengthen the economy, it will grow the economy. At the same time, it will bring lot of jobs to the economy. What is your take on this, sir? Can this be a ready solution for a good and fast solution for strengthening the economy?
Well, nobody in this hall will disagree with what you are saying. It is definitely something which is desirable. The question is, how do you bring the idle gold into the into investment? So there was a GMS scheme, gold monetization scheme, which has been tried by DEA, but I don't know what is the extent of success we have got in this.
6.5 tons
Yeah,
in the last answer given in the Lok Sabha.
So that's not much, I think. We need to, so the desirability of what you are saying is very much established. The question is, can you suggest some instruments for it? This is the question.
Sir, we can put a study group on this.
Please do that.
And we can tweak the GMS to desired thing so that it can work well.
But again, that you can't tell me that in order to make GMS, please waive all the taxes, do this, do that.
No, we are not asking for that.
So it should not be based on any...
No, we are not asking for that.
Yeah, but we'll look at it,
Thank you, sir.
Sir, this is Nitin Khandelwal from GJF. Sir, we are ready with the policy for the GML and completely with the involvement of the industry. If you allow some time in the office or any time, we are ready with this and we'll come with the experts also. And we are completely ready with the solution. Similarly with the Turkey also. नहीं वो क्वेश्चन ये है कि सर हाँ जी सर क्वेश्चंस ये है कि जब हम इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स पेमेंट को काफ़ी बढ़ावा दे रहे हैं पंड्या जी ने काफ़ी सारे सजेशन दिए हैं और काफ़ी बार हम आपसे भी मिले हैं सर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स पेमेंट के ऊपर इंसेंटिव वाइज हम कितना जल्दी कर सकते हैं जिससे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स पेमेंट इस इंडस्ट्री में इंट्रोड्यूस हो सके सर दूसरा बैंक का जो प्रवीण जी ने कहा था कि रिस्क रेशो बहुत हाई करके रखा है ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री को एक अलग नज़र से देखा जा रहा है और केस काफ़ी पेंडिंग रहते हैं और जो ये भी देते हैं रैंकिंग वो भी बहुत लो होती है और मोनेटाइजेशन के अंदर सर सबसे बड़ा जो है एक यूआरडी परचेस के अंदर एक प्रॉब्लम काफ़ी आता है काफ़ी ये जो सोशल सिक्योरिटी के लिए लोग गोल्ड बाय करते हैं और जब 50 ग्राम गोल्ड किसी अर्जेंसी की वजह से फ्राइडे या सैटरडे को आते हैं और 10,000 का जो लिमिट है उनको रीपेमेंट करने का वो बहुत छोटा होता है तो उसमें जो रियल सिक्योरिटी के लगता है मेडिकल इमरजेंसी आती है ट्रैवलिंग इमरजेंसी आती है काफ़ी इमरजेंसी होती है वो बहुत दिक्कत होती है और वो अच्छे प्लेयर को बुक्स के अंदर रखने में काफ़ी दिक्कत जाती है तो नेक्स्ट डोर पे कस्टमर चला जाता है तो इस पर थोड़ा बजट में ध्यान दिया जाए थैंक यू
ओके विल कीप इट इनटू माइंड
Is there any incentive for electronic payments, not just for the gold industry, but generally for electronic payment over cash?
I'm not too sure whether there is any specific incentive as of now, but
No,
there is a
not
demand
now.
for it. There is a demand for it, and there are two ways of encouraging digital payment. One is to discourage the cash payment.
That's true.
So the disincentives for cash payment and the other one is to actually give positive encouragement for digital payment. So these are both the ends which we can address.
Sir, I'm Prakash Chandra Pincha from Calcutta. And sir, we understand that the government is considering very deeply regarding framing a gold policy, and that is going to transform the way of business we are doing today. But my question is, sir, that whether government has documented its learned history since 1962 onwards to 2013 and thereafter. Because we have 3 eras of gold history. One of Gold Control Act period, which ended in 1991. And thereafter there was a much liberalized era, which ended in 2013. And there's certain quantitative restrictions were imposed, and thereafter they were not continuing, and now it is an era of 10% excise duty, customs duty, which is prohibitive. But what I want to stress is that before going to frame new policy, should the government not document the historical lessons that have been learned during these 3 eras, what impact was on the trade because of these policies, coupled with the policy of the VAT introduction. At that time, prior to VAT, there were higher taxes in different states, ranging from 3% to 11% or 12%, and the VAT regime brought to it 1% across the state. And that single step brought so many people in the compliance line. So I think that these things should be first well documented and made public, and thereafter the debate should start on gold policy, sir. Thank you.
No, I appreciate what you are saying. The government should be documenting what has been the policy prescriptions in the last 3 decades, and also what is the experience out of it. Government is a continuous institution, so I'm sure government somewhere will have such a document. But you people are the living history. So based on your experience of government's policy in the last 3-4 decades, what would you suggest as the 2 top policy prescriptions we should avoid, and 2 top policy prescriptions we should be adopting? Can you tell me that?
Sure, sir. I will not go for 2 top policies, just one policy, and that the Prime Minister's mantra: maximum governance and minimum government.
But how?
Yeah, sir, that's why
how do we apply it in the context of...
That's why I suggested that we must learn from the history, and if we refuse to learn from history, we might not be making good history.
No, we must learn from the history, but what does the history tell you
to
guide me?
Yes, sir. Gold control gave an experience that entire trade gone underground. And when it was suddenly liberalized...
So we should avoid gold control, that is one.
Yeah,
okay.
Any control, sir.
Any
type of control.
The second prescription?
And the second is that we saw the liberalized period. So many people fall into the compliances. We saw the VAT period. Even more people came. And now GST will bring you not only more than 50%, I promise you, sir, more than twice. GST will bring it. But just make it simple, sir. And I am an exporter. We as an exporter, sir, we are facing great difficulty in getting the refunds. So please have some.
Well, actually, if I can extend that to a question, sir.
Yes.
You said the refunds in the last 3 months has been 6,500 rupees. 5 months. The industry says that actually 60,000 or 65,000 crores is stuck as refunds. What is the correct figure?
Look, let me tell you this. The industry's figure, I don't know which industry and which organization has collected the figures from all the exporters and given this figure.
Okay.
This is not the correct figure. If we take an average experience of last year also, the average refund per month is 2,500 crore.
Okay.
Even last year's. Now, there are 2 different tracks of export refund. Let me just explain, because many of you may be exporters. One is, if you pay IGST on export, then you are supposed to get immediate refund of IGST, entire 100%, within 3 days after you filing your return. Right? This is the promise we had given you. There was a delay of 3 months because of technological challenges, and we made that entire thing available to you. So if you have paid IGST on export, then you're supposed to do 2 things. One is, you should have filed your 3B in 3B for the month of July, August, September, October. That is number one. Number two, there is a table of export which is a part of form number 1, GSTR 1. And that GSTR 1 may not be entirely available for the month of August, September, October. For July, it is available. So, but there is a separate table called 6A, which you have to file online. The moment you have filed your 3B and 6A, you will get your refund. That is not a problem. And this figure is 6,500 crore because we know for sure that people who have filed shipping bill, the total amount paid by them on IGST for the month of July, August, September, October is 6,500 crore. The second route of refund is the route of input tax credit refund on the inputs which are used by an exporter. Now, some people may not pay IGST on export, but they buy goods and pay inputs taxes. Now, the refund of those input taxes, again, there was a delay. We do agree. RFD 01, the form for filing refund application for such cases, RFD 01, it is available online for the last 15-20 days. And now you have to file your refund in that RFD 01. And the applications that we have been getting, it is now jumping because after we gave that press note, now people know that RFD 01 you have to file. Just 4 days ago, it was just 30 crores of refund applications. And within 2-3 days, it has become 1,200 crore. And now let us see what it comes to. But I can tell you for sure that per month refund will not be more than 3,000 crore. You know, that is the experience of last year. So it cannot be 60,000 crore at all. So we are waiting for more people to file the RFD 01 form so that we can give you immediately. Achha, there is a small manual come automated procedure there. You just file your RFD 01, take out a manual copy of it, go to your jurisdictional central government officer or the state government officer, whichever you want, or wherever you are located, because in some state the allocation of SSC base has happened. So if you have got your, if you got intimation that you are with the state government, go to the state government officer. If you go to the central government officer, you can go to central government officer. The person will issue a refund order manually for both SGST as well as CGST. And then after receiving that refund order, you will get separately the payment from SGST and CGST from the two different governments, you know. That is for the time being. The moment our entire process is automated, even back end of RFD 01, then there'll be no need to go manually anywhere. After that, the refund will automatically come into your bank account once you have filed RFD 01.
And what's the time for that, sir?
That should happen within 15, we have given a promise of 7 days, no? Within 7 days, 90% will have to be given back.
And your estimate of SGST, CGST returns would be how much? As much as IGST or less than that?
Means amount or number of cases?
No. The amount that is due to the industry, because that's where the liquidity
that's what I'm telling you. No? Last year, our experience was pre-GST, it was 2,500 crores of refund for export. Not only export, for other cases also of duty inversion, etc. 2,500 crore per month. So it's not going to be much.
Fair enough.
It may be at the most 3,000 crore or 4,000 crore because we have now expected people to pay IGST. Again, I'm telling you, the problem of refund was there only for first few months. After that, we have moved over to the pre-GST regime now. Now there is an advance authorization. There is a duty-free import of gold for your export industry. All this is there, right?
Yes,
so after 15th of October, we already moved to pre-GST regime of giving you exemption. So whatever refunds we are talking about, that is stuck up for the first 3 months, and we are trying to solve that.
Fair point, sir. I think there are a couple of more questions if you can.
No, one David before. Where is David?
There.
You wanted to, he's there. Can you ask question? Mike did you? Sir, he is the largest jeweler in the world, having more than 43,000 sterling ink, 43,000 stores across the world. He's come here to participate in our conference. He wants to ask a question.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Mr. Minister, for being here. And I just clarify, the name of the company is Signet Jewelers Limited. We're the largest retail jewelry company in the world. We've got about 3,600 stores and about 38,000 team members, and an office here in Mumbai. As you know, the U.S. jewelry market is still the largest in the world, about more than $80 billion. We do about $6.5 billion and spend billions of dollars here on behalf of the U.S. Here in India, and have been doing so for decades, building over the years in partnership with the Council. And part of that reason for that growth over the years has been the ease of doing business and the guidance that we've been getting over the decades with working closely with the Council. Me personally, it's been a privilege for me to be working about one of those decades, and the strides we have taken are immense. My question to you is with regards to what the Indian industry and government is considering in the collaboration that we've had with the U.S. and Indian government. What are your views on maintaining that collaboration as you consider these policy changes in, again, both working with the U.S. government and U.S. industry?
Specifically about gold or generally?
Yeah.
Well, it's always interesting to work with all the major economies of the world, and India and USA. We have got a lot of deep-rooted economic relationship. We would be very happy to work with the US government on various policy issues, and if you are talking specifically about this industry, I wouldn't know much about it because Commerce Ministry must be knowing about it. Yeah. You want to ask something supplementary? Mr. David? No, you want to ask something else?
I was just asking about your views on maintaining the collaboration between the US.
We'll maintain it,
yes,
sure,
in the
for
US
sure.
and the Indian
Yeah, we would be very happy to maintain it. And recently some bold tax reforms are proposed by the US government. We are watching them.
Hello.
What would be your views on it? Would you worry?
Good afternoon, sir. We all members are very happy. Yesterday night we were speaking that the way this whole outcome is coming related to the government and GJPC, and there is a lot of confidence between us. Okay. Sir, I am a very small exporter, and many small exporters like me in the region of 2012 to 2014 have not got their replenishment of gold. If you can look into this, it would be a great thing. A lot of small exporters have exported the jewelry, and they couldn't claim the refund of their, not refund, but the replenishment. A lot of presentation has been made, and lot of efforts have been taken by sir as well. I know a lot of people who have stopped exporting just because they couldn't get the replenishment. When we export gold, we make hardly 3 to 4% margin. And when we lose whole 10%, the whole working capital gets stuck. I request you to look into it, sir, please.
Sir, I'll explain this. For that 2 years, the replenishment has not been given, and the ministry has also put the thing into the finance, but that part has still not been done. And when I was saying that we need to work out on a refund policy, sir, some mechanism, some committee has to be set up so that an exporters, get immediate refund, and whatever is sold against foreign exchange, some kind of immediate benefit occurs to them so that we can increase the export. I think that was the
Last question. One question here. Yeah, last question. Just mic level.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Delhi itself. My name is Rahul Gupta. Sir, anti-profiteering clause is still not active, but we apprehend in our industry it will be a problem because gold prices are absolutely fluctuating. We have to hedge our purchase at a lot of times. So either a proper procedure may be there when it is applicable to our industry, or the industry may be exempted because our raw material price, our finished good price can never be linked because of gold prices being so volatile. That's the request.
Anti-profiting authority has already been kicked in. The authority has been set up now. But I don't think your industry needs to worry about it. Because, what is it that you will be asked about? I don't know. Is there a big input tax credit that you have to pass down, or what is it?
So
I
now
don't think your industry will have much of an effect of anti-profiteering measure.
So it's a fact, sir. It's a fact, sir. If
No,
a
I
clarification
don't think
can
so.
be
I think only FMCG was
Yeah, actually
worried.
the profiteering can possibly happen wherein there is a large organized sector player who is manufacturing goods and the government has straight away reduced the GST on those items. And in spite of reducing GST on those items, those companies do not pass down the benefit, then only the profiteering, anti-profiteering will apply. In your industry, I don't see any reason for you to be harassed on anything, you know.
So
I don't
if
think
there can
so.
be a clarification or
We
exemption.
cannot clarify it, but I don't see, I mean, don't think of anti-profiteering as a big brother watching you all the time. It's a temporary, transitory measure for 2 years only.
Right,
And it is based on the complaint only. So far, whatever few complaints we have got, none of them is relating to gold, so don't worry.
So consumers have started thinking on these lines that this anti-profiteering clause is applicable for them to raise their consumer affair issues. That's what we're seeing on ground.
I see.
That's the only concern.
But anyway, I don't think so far it's not a big problem as far as your industry is concerned.
So, but which industry is the government concentrating on for this?
No, actually,
Is it only for the 28 to
no.
18?
No, not only 28 to 18, wherever the complaint of profiteering is not against a small sundry jeweler or a restaurant owner,
But
where it is against a big industry which has not passed down the benefit, you know. So mainly they would concentrate on those cases. If there is a so-and-so jeweler, one person who is sort of increasing the price of his gold jewelry, the anti-profiteering authority has no way of finding out. You know, this is.
So you'd pass it on to the consumer affairs or something?
One question from UP, Mahesh Jain, their head has come.
Yeah, but the last one now, I have to leave.
Sir, sir जैसे
So if I can sit down since it is between you.
Please.
इसे सीखने की, हिस्ट्री के सीखने की बात जहाँ तक गोल्ड ज्वेलरी की बात है, 2002 में जब एनडीए गवर्नमेंट थी, वो 5,000 रुपये का गोल्ड का रेट चल रहा था, तो कस्टम ड्यूटी 400 रुपये पर 10 ग्राम थी। 2002 में वो 250 रुपये करी गई और 2003 में वो मात्र 100 रुपये पर 10 ग्राम कस्टम ड्यूटी थी और 2012 फरवरी तक वो सिर्फ 1% कस्टम ड्यूटी रही। उसके बाद 2%, 4, 6, 8 और 10% कस्टम ड्यूटी कर दी गई। प्लीज ये थी कि हमारी कैट की बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है। क्वेश्चन ये है, जब पिछली बार एनडीए गवर्नमेंट ने, उस समय कैट की प्रॉब्लम उससे भी ज़्यादा थी और यहाँ तक कि हमको अपना गोल्ड मॉर्टगेज करना पड़ा था उसके 5 साल पहले। आज जब कैट की प्रॉब्लम भी थोड़ी थोड़ी सॉल्व हो रही है, रेवेन्यू भी इतना इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है, तो एक स्मगलिंग को इतना प्रोत्साहन जो मिल रहा है, 3% जीएसटी, 10% कस्टम ड्यूटी, 13% माने 4 लाख रुपए पर किलो का डिफरेंस है इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में और इंडिया के मार्केट में। कैसे ईमानदार आदमी कितने दिन ईमानदार रह सकता है यदि वो 13% 4 लाख रुपए नीचे का माल वो बेच रहा है, तो हमारी इंडस्ट्री में जो ऑनेस्ट आदमी है वो कितने दिन ऑनेस्ट रहेगा? बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन है सर। आज कैट की प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, आज पैरेलल इकोनॉमी चल रही है। 150 टन 50,000 करोड़ का माल हिंदुस्तान में स्मगलिंग से आता है। स्मगलिंग में 2 नंबर में बनता है, 2 नंबर में बिकता है, कोई उसको टैक्स नहीं मिलता, कोई इनकम टैक्स नहीं मिलता। ईमानदार कस्टमर, ईमानदार व्यापारी कितने दिन ईमानदार रहेगा? एक तरफ अपने मोदी जी कहते हैं कि हमें करप्शन हटाना है, हमें पैरेलल इकोनॉमी हटानी है, तो सर इस पर ध्यान क्यों नहीं दिया जाता? आज हमारे एग्रीमेंट्स हो रहे हैं, उसके अंदर 0% पे गोल्ड इंपोर्ट होता है। हमसे ये कहा जाता है कि हमारे इंटरनेशनल कमिटमेंट हैं, टीटीज हैं, हम उसको कुछ नहीं कर सकते। यदि आप 4% कस्टम ड्यूटी कर दें तो ना तो ऑर्गेनाइज स्मगलिंग होगी और ना अनऑर्गेनाइज, ना लीगल स्मगलिंग होगी ना इलीगल, ना माल गोल्ड ऑफिशियली आएगा इंडिया में 0% कस्टम ड्यूटी में, क्योंकि उनकी 3 या 4% कॉस्ट आती है। तो मेरा आपसे करबद्ध प्रार्थना है कि ईमानदार व्यापारियों को प्रोत्साहन दीजिए और कस्टम ड्यूटी जल्दी से जल्दी हटाई जाए। जब 1% कस्टम ड्यूटी 2002 में थी, तो आज 2017 में 10% और 3%, 13% का बर्डन हमारी ट्रेड इंडस्ट्री नहीं बर्दाश्त कर सकती। आपसे निवेदन है कि ईमानदार व्यापारियों को सपोर्ट करिए कि वो ईमानदारी से अपना काम कर सके। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, Mr. Jain. I think you are I can judge you as the best speaker of the session. Thank you. And we'll look into your grievance. Thank you.
So by any standard, you are the best speaker. Well, I guess Mr. Adya has stolen the thunder and has Mr. Jain. Are there any further questions for anybody else on the... Yes, please. Yeah, can we start with him? I'll come to you. Oh, okay, sure. Okay, you'll have to wait. You have to wait for your questions.
Good afternoon. Dr. Shri Hasmukh Adia ji, Finance and Commerce Secretary, Government of India. Mr. Daduji, Additional Secretary, Government of India. Mr. Manoj Dwivedi ji, Joint Secretary, Government of India. Shri Aram Shishmariam, World Gold Council. And Shri Amri Kroker, Turkey Treasury. I, on behalf of GJPC, extend you a sincere thanks to participate and share your views on the policy. Sir, we have noted your suggestions and observations, and we hope all these points will be a vital inputs in formulating the new gold policy for the country. It's heartening to note that Honorable Adia ji has spared his valuable time and noted down the needs of the gem and jewelry industry. We hope this policy will aim to setting up a national gold board, an umbrella body to advise the government on all aspects, like monetization scheme, sovereign bonds, exports, imports, trading, bullion exchanges, hallmarking, refineries, and many more. Again, a sincere thanks to all the participants and esteemed guests, and special thanks to Lata Venkatesh for making this session very interesting and engaging. Thank you.
That we can take the question answer session forward.
Okay, is anyone still interested in asking questions, or you want to carry it offline? Okay, there is a gentleman there. Oh, yeah, sure. No, I mean, I didn't want to stop it. I thought everyone was leaving. No, there's one gentleman. Yes,
Hello.
please go ahead.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
My name is Hemant Goyal. I am an exporter since last 35 years of gold jewelry from Delhi. Since so many years, we are feeling a lot of problem with the banks and supply of gold for exports. You have appointed so many nominated agencies for supply of gold to exporters and domestic market. Now all the players of domestic market, they are going out of export supplies. So far, I can tell you 3 names of the banks: HDFC, Yes Bank, ICICI Bank. They are not supplying gold on outright basis. That is, pay the money and get the gold. Whereas Nova Scotia is the only bank who was supplying on outright basis. Now they are also, now earlier we used to get the gold on the basis of pay the money and also give a bank guarantee towards the performance for the custom duty. Now they want a cash balance for the custom duty, which will be refunded after the export is done and all documents are submitted. our money is blocked for 3 months. Now, what is the use of those government agencies who are earning money from the domestic market and are treating exports as a stepmotherly treatment?
Got your point, sir. Mr.
Number
Secretary.
one.
Okay,
There are so many points.
Oh.
Secondly, Bank of Nova Scotia.
Sir, I suggest let him answer or he won't remember.
All right.
Hello.
Yeah, they can hear.
You have posed two questions. Your questions relating to the banks and the release of gold from the banks is dealt with by the Department of Financial Services. Without knowing what is the factual position, I will not be able to answer. But as regards the Department of Commerce, we have two major institutions which provide gold to you, the MMTC and the STC. I am on the board of both the institutions, and I can assure you the amount of gold business that they've done in the last quarter is phenomenally large compared to what they've done in the previous years. So obviously these two institutions have provided a lot of gold to the gold exporters in the last 2 quarters.
One more thing. Regarding these two institutions, I just tell you, these two institutions, just ask them how many exporters are with them. What they are doing is, now because Bank of Nova Scotia, we are the client of Bank of Nova Scotia since inception of the Bank of Nova Scotia here. Now due to recession in American market and all that, our exports has reduced to lower level. So they are closing all small accounts from there. So we are shifting to MMTC. MMTC is creating a lot of problems since last 1 month. We are trying to open an account with them. They are taking out mistakes, silly mistakes in some spelling mistakes.
Let me answer that. If there's any problem you're facing with MMTC or STC.
Yeah, I'm talking about MMTC.
Let me answer that. Please write to the Commerce Secretary or directly to me, and we'll ensure that as far as MMTC, STC are concerned, which are PSUs of the Department of Commerce, we will act swiftly and resolve your issues.
One more thing, sir. Because we have appointed 9-10 banks as a nominated agencies, why can't we call them and have a meeting with them? Why they are not giving gold to the exporters?
We can do that. We can do that.
Because what they are doing is they are only entertaining big exporters, and this is where the small exporters will go.
Is there any nominated agency here? Anybody? MMTC representative is here?
I can deal with MMTC.
From which
that's
bank?
not a problem.
Bank?
The point I'm trying to make is that we haven't received any communication from the council or the body of exporters.
I think he is here, Diamond India Dill. Can you speak on this subject little bit? Chanji? What is your difficulty in not giving gold to exporters?
You want to change the name, sir?
Hello. हमारा कुछ difficulty नहीं है. Anybody who comes to us, we have been giving gold. In fact, we are canvassing for the customers all over the country. So there is no difficulty, and nobody has been said no by us.
Well, I think, sir, you should take your complaint offline with the secretary and make a presentation to him. That'll be better rather than, get someone from MMTC to answer this. I think since people have taken a tea break.
One very small question.
Can we call them back?
Yeah, I think, you would want to come and meet the secretary and speak with him.
No.
Wouldn't that be preferable?
Can we have some quiet please here at the tea area? Can we request you to come back with your cup and sit down please?
एक suggestion है Gem and Jewelry Export Promotion Council के लिए. One more suggestion for the Gem and Jewelry.
I think he should come, sorry, maybe they should come and meet him later because people have already taken the tea break.
Okay.
See,
my suggestion is
he
only
has to
thing
make his initial this thing, let him
Why
say
don't-
and
yeah,
then questions.
Maybe that will be better if he will speak and then you can ask him questions.
dignitaries on the dais, distinguished members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen. I think they should be able to hear it. Because we're falling short of time. Having been in the Department of Commerce now for 6.5 years, and having heard all the learned speakers here and heard some of the questions, let me expound on 12 points which I'm sure will answer many of your questions, and if there's still more that germinate after that, I'll be very happy to answer them. I'll give a short introduction and then come point-wise. Some of the points that I'm going to cover are my personal views and some are official. So please don't grill me on my personal views, grill me on the official part. Dr. Y.V. Reddy, former RBI governor, estimated that the gold industry adds about $30 billion to India's GDP and employs 2.5 million people. Now, these are official estimates of the former RBI governor. After China, India is the second largest gold market in the world, and all of you are aware of it. The Chinese Precious Metal Department of ICBC Bank has created a transparent online platform to facilitate purchase of small amounts of gold. It also aggregates customers' gold and uses it for financing, leasing, and hedging. I am told this banking platform today has 250 million users, and a strong effort is being made to convert the stock into a flow. So the first 2 points that I'll make are about how to convert India's large stock of gold, which was mentioned as 23,000 tons, into a flow which can be utilized. In this context, I heard about the gold exchange. While there's a Niti Aayog body looking into formation of a gold exchange and all related issues, IIM Ahmedabad did a study on gold exchange, and I'm just quoting what they said. They said if a gold exchange is set up in India with gold vaulting facilities and delivery at 21 major locations the very next day, we could trade 100 tons of gold, convert stock into a flow of 100 tons annually. Now, this estimate, if it is correct, in my personal view, will go a long way in converting stock into a flow and must be encouraged. But I can't make any official statement on this because Niti Aayog is looking at it very closely, as I mentioned. Now, stock and flow are the most crucial issues as far as gold is concerned to my mind. And I looked at the World Council report, published report, which says that $7 trillion of gold is above the ground and $3 trillion is held in bullion form. Now, this unexploited asset is lying in vaults and is not being utilized as a medium of exchange today. And yet, if you look at world figures, $250 billion of worth of gold is changing hands daily, as estimated by some expert investors. So therefore, while we talk about a large stock of gold in India and in the world, a certain modicum of that gold is coming into the market as a medium of exchange, and $250 billion is not a small amount. The second issue of converting stock into gold in India, and this is my personal view, I want to suggest a very big idea to all of you. It has been estimated that the top 100 temples and religious institutions of this country hold about 10,000 tons of gold. The top 10 temples itself, it is estimated, get about 100 crores of donations every year, and of which 10% is in the form of gold and silver. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that if this stock of gold, even 1% of that, can be converted into a flow, we would have a large stock of recycled gold, which is lying unutilized today, into the system. Now, what is the suggestion I have? This is a suggestion I made to the powers that be in the government also. What I have been told is that the temple authorities fear the tax authorities. They fear that their gold donations, either in their own vaults or vaults of the banks, will get questioned with respect to the source of this donation. So the crucial issue is the source of donation going to be questioned by the tax authorities? The solution that I'm suggesting is that an expert team of senior officials of the Ministry of Finance, including SBI, RBI, CBDT, if they make a small 4- or 5-member team and visit all the top 100 temple trusts of this country, win the confidence of the trustees, assuage their fears, and enlist their support, my estimation is that if each temple trust agrees to part with 5 tons of gold annually, the 100 top temples can give you 500 tons of gold, which can be recycled through the banks and the system, which will be a win-win situation for the temple trusts, for the banks, for the jewelers, for the government, and the public. The hoarded wealth of India will come into circulation, and that'll save about 30,000 crores of foreign exchange for the country. So this is a suggestion for converting stock into gold. I move on to my third point, and Mr. Adam made an oblique reference to this. We have presently 300 hallmarking centers in this country. The Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, did a study on this, and they suggested that if these numbers can be raised to 1,000, it will increase the confidence of the public tremendously in the quality of gold, and both the domestic sales and the exports will rise. Now, for the information of Mr. Adam, I wanted to mention that we have 7,000 towns in this country covering 700 districts, and each town, as our Honorable Minister said yesterday, has a goldsmith shop. So if we can increase the hallmarking centers itself from 300 to 1,000, there's a great possibility of increasing domestic sales and domestic exports and exports. The fourth point that I wanted to make, and again, Commerce Secretary yesterday made an oblique reference to this. We have a large demand for gold jewelry, but the top international firms require latest designs, latest innovations in jewelry design. Fortunately, India signed a bilateral MOU with Italy recently, purely on assistance on designs. Therefore, if JGEPC can tap this MOU, we could have the best of Italian designers available to the jewelry trade to enhance the value and the appeal to the international customer. In this context, Mr. Adam also mentioned about skill development in his presentation. I want to suggest another idea to the JGEPC and through the Department of Commerce. We have 17 National Institute of Fashionable Technology centers in this country. They are all doing textile design, leather design, furniture design. They are not into jewelry design. So if with the help of JGEPC, we can start jewelry design courses in these 17 NIFT centers and 4 National Institute of Design centers which are under DIPP. We have the same minister, DIPP is with the minister. Then design capabilities in the country can be significantly improved. The next point I wanted to mention was about gold being bought by foreign tourists and they having to pay 3% GST. Now, this is not true for gold only. We have requests from a large number of foreign tourists who buy top-class Indian textiles, top-class Indian handicrafts, handicraft furniture from Jodhpur, about 10,000 crores of handicraft furniture from Jodhpur is exported. So therefore, it is, and again, Niti Aayog, I believe, is looking into this, if we can set up GST refund counters in at least 10 top international airports of India, this would be possible if the customs comes aligned to this idea and if Niti Aayog can implement this. The next point, and this is the most important point for all the exporters sitting here and the JGEPC. We speak of a target of $20 billion by 2022, $25 billion by 2025. I've been in the Department of Commerce for 6.5 years. Pardon me for saying it, but if I speak candidly, we do not have an export strategy for gold jewelry exports. Neither do we have an export strategy for other jewelry exports, diamond and things like that. We have a vision document which was prepared 3 years ago, but we don't have an export strategy. We have a large Indian diaspora covering the entire world, 155 countries of the world. But we still concentrate all our energies on the EU and the US market. The Department of Commerce has time and again mentioned to all exporters, please look at other emerging markets like CIS countries, Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia. They're huge countries, huge demand. But unfortunately, till we have an export strategy talking of targets like $20 billion by so-and-so date and $25 billion by so-and-so date, will also remain only statements and will not convert into reality. My next point is about jewelry parks that I heard being mentioned. I'm a little surprised again at this point, again being a hardcore Department of Commerce official for the last 6.5 years, we have a very, very active SEZ policy. We have a large number of SEZs doing exports worth more than 4.5 lakh, 5 lakh crores. Large number of people are employed in these SEZs. Some of the SEZs which were taken for speculative purposes have been cancelled. So these cancelled SEZs are available for starting a jewelry SEZ. I have not seen a single proposal for a jewelry SEZ coming to the Department of Commerce, and we'll be very happy to assist and allow that. A jewelry SEZ which allows domestic access also to the extent of 30% will be an ideal thing for creation of a jewelry park. So unless you want to do something else, a jewelry SEZ to my mind will meet this demand to a very large extent. Then for the small MSME exporters, a couple of MSME exporters were making some queries. For the small MSME exporters, I want to mention, and the Honorable Minister and our Commerce Secretary mentioned yesterday, we have set up 4 common facility centers with the state-of-the-art facilities fully funded by the Department of Commerce. Please take advantage of these centers. We are creating 8 more in the next 2 years. And the total clusters of jewelry in this country are 20. I assure you from this platform, we will create 20 common facility centers in all the 20 clusters in the next 3 to 5 years so that no MSME exporter feels that he is deprived of state-of-the-art facilities. There's another candid assertion I want to make, and that is about factoring. People talk about the liquidity problems in the country. Factoring is an ideal way to handle liquidity. The world over it is being utilized. Now let me share the anguish of the Department of Commerce. About 5 years or 7 years ago, a major fraud took place in factoring from your trade. I'm not trying to blame anyone, but because of that massive fraud, the Export Credit Guarantee Corporation of India stopped factoring. With great difficulty, this year we have pushed ECGC to start the factoring services again. My request to you is, Please utilize the factoring services to get as much liquidity as you want, but please ensure that that kind of fraud doesn't happen again, because when a massive fraud like that happens, it becomes difficult to persist and pursue good facilities like factoring. On MEIS, I heard a very strong requirement of MEIS. Let me share with you, MEIS has never been extended to the gold and the diamond industry for obvious reasons. But because of the various problems exporters are facing, we are trying to increase our MEIS provisions from just about a few thousand crores, almost doubling or tripling it if the proposal of the Department of Commerce is accepted by the Department of Finance. Now, if you include the gold trade in MEIS, and I was asking my joint secretary who was sitting with me in the morning, I am not sure what is the extent of the fund requirement if MEIS is unilaterally, uniformly extended to the entire gold and diamond business. It could be a very, very huge amount, and therefore, before making this suggestion, I think we need to get our facts and figures together so that we can embark on this a little more realistically.
Sir, can I?
I'll just take a couple of moments.
Issue,
I'll just take a couple of. We started the Ashoka emblem gold coin last year. Unfortunately, MMTC could not sell very much, but let me tell you, we are now starting an e-commerce facility in MMTC very soon, and Ashoka emblem gold coins, which I believe are very sought after, but have certain problems of logistics, will be available to anyone who wants to buy it, especially the Indian diaspora. My last point is about, and Mr. Adam mentioned this in his presentation. See, we have a large number of gold refineries in this country, but only 7 or 8 are registered. The Niti Aayog is looking into the entire issue of gold refining also. But I must say that a time has come to set international standards for gold refineries. If we don't do that, then the quality of gold that comes out of these refineries will be suspect. Therefore, that's a very, very important thing that we need to look at. I think I've touched a large variety of issues that were raised, but I see a very, very bright future for the gold and jewelry industry in this country, and I'm happy to facilitate the achievement of the target of $20 or $25 billion, provided we have a professional agency doing a strategic paper on this, and then JG, EPC, ensuring and enabling that that strategy gets implemented. Thank you very much.
Lata, I just want a couple of this thing.
No, I just requested the secretary to stay on so you can ask your question.
Yeah. Sir, you have raised some of the very important issues that concern our industry, and they are very, very valid. Most of them, the industry has to embrace themselves. Just, sir, on 2 points, I just wanted to draw your attention. One is this large bank fraud that happened, which ECGC probably has reported to you. I think, sir, this is not making of the industry. The industry had started, didn't deal with this gentleman for 10 years, and yet in this 10 years, the bankers have increased their finance to 7 times. And when he was not dealing with the industry. At the same time, this whole family of promoter was allowed to exit the personal guarantee and go away from the country. So that was a pure connivance. Now the industry is not responsible for what the banks and others have to do. So please, this blame should not come on the industry. The bankers and the ED and other enforcement agency have to do their jobs. There would be people like that. We can't vouch for everybody, but yes, the industry had completely stopped. for those 10 years dealing, and if the banks would have approached us, we would have told them. So that was one thing. And on, sir, MEIS, I agree with you. It's great difficulty to assess what you have said, that the requirement of fund. But that is why we as an industry have suggested that don't give us on the total exports, but give us on the value addition. So everybody will force to have their value addition, and that would be really giving impetus to the industry to achieve our targets. So that is only, sir, two things I wanted to say.
First of all, let me clarify right in the beginning, and I did that when I was speaking about ECGC. I am not blaming you or anyone in the industry. What I'm saying is, and this you must appreciate if you put yourself in my shoes, if a major fraud happens in a financial institution pertaining to a particular sector, it becomes a very difficult, pervasive thing to get out of that system. The fact that factoring did not take place in this country for 7 to 8 years shows the liquidity issues that you're facing. Otherwise, if you booked an order and you have shipped your goods, you can straight away factor your receivables. The world is doing it, China is doing it in very, very large numbers. Therefore, in the board of ECGC, and I'm sharing this with you, we have told them and they have started the work again. Please take advantage of it. On the second issue of MEIS, as I mentioned, even for value addition, we need to know figures. How much? Yeah, that is required because so far we have never dealt with MEIS. We have never dealt with MEIS on gold as we have not dealt with MEIS on basmati rice. We do exports of basmati rice of several $1 billion. The basmati rice industry has been asking for MEIS. We have not given MEIS. So the progressive sectors, if they start asking for funds from the government for export incentives, please understand there are a large number of sectors who actually require this incentive. So therefore it becomes difficult. It's a balancing act the government has to do, and we'll do our best once we have the figures.
Sir, roughly it is about $8 billion, the value addition. That I can tell you, and out of 43, and if we have to take this 43 to 60 for a year or two value addition, because we are giving this benefit to textile industry on the total exports, not on the value addition. And we have never asked for it. Till now, 40 years have passed, I have never asked for it. But sir,
let's see the figures. Then
prices are under pressure, profitability is under pressure. So for at least couple of years, please make an attempt and help us, and we will sure come back to you that now we don't need it.
Okay. Thank you. Can I? Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Matu's presentation will elicit a lot more questions, but the next session has to go on, and therefore we will not have the Q&A segment now. Thank you very much for participating with such enthusiasm for the Q&A.
Thank you, Lata. And may I request Mr. Pandya to please felicitate Lata Venkatesh.
I'll take this, sir. Don't give it to you. No.
Thank you so much, Lata, for all the support. So now we move on to our next session, which is on gold spot exchange for India. I would like to invite on stage Mr. Hakan Aytekin, Head of the Precious Metals and Diamond Market at Borsa Istanbul. Mr. Shivanshu Mehta, Head Bullion MCX. Professor Arvind Sahai, Head of India Gold Policy Center, IMA. Mr. S.K. Jindal, Chairman, ASSOCHAM. Mr. Rahul Gupta, Director, Bullion Federation of India. Mr. Ajay Mehra, Co-Chair, FICCI James and Jewellery Committee. Mr. Amar Singh, Executive Director, Global Commodities Marketing, JP Morgan. Mr. Sanjeev Vora, Head, Precious Metals, Metals and Soft Commodities Verticals in DGCX. Mr. Ramkrishnan Padmanabhan, VP, Treasury, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. We will first have the special address by Mr. Hakan Aytekin and Mr. Shivanshu Mehta, and then the panel discussion will be moderated by Mr. Somasundram, Managing Director, World Gold Council India. Can we have you on stage, please? And Ms. Manisha Gupta, Editor, Commodities, CNBC. So first, I would like to invite Mr. Hakan Aytekin for the special address.
Yeah, no, it's not me. All right, before the panel discussion starts, a very good afternoon to all of you. I think the last session was very engaging, but you know, we have definitely overshot the time, and there is still something very interesting coming up. If you are all really keen on having a gold exchange, then we should really listen to this. So but definitely we can't compete with the kadai paneers and other stuff. So if that can just be delayed a bit, we will make sure that this is as engaging as the last one. And at the same time, we have speaker from Istanbul, who's going to set the context, and then Manisha and I will try and moderate. Panel is easier. Questions are difficult, so I will leave that part to Manisha. But if you can please settle down and just give the speakers the right respect. Thank you very much.
Have to move forward.
Thank you, everybody, for organizing and inviting us to this event. I'm from Turkey, as you know, in Istanbul, and Turkish people has great sympathy to Indian people because you supported us in our independence war, so everybody is very much sympathetic to. I'm sure you are, because I saw in the street Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who is the founder of modern Turkey. You gave name to a street in Delhi, so I'm very pleased that. So I'm starting my presentation with Borsa Istanbul, actually, and after that, spot gold exchange will follow. It's a long presentation, but I will go very fast. Don't worry. I think it's not working. Okay. Actually, Borsa Istanbul is not only a spot gold. There's only one exchange now in Turkey. We merged with Borsa Istanbul, and our exchange experiences goes back to Ottoman times. In 1873, there was an exchange in Ottoman period, and then with a little bit interruptions, we started again. In 1985, we started Istanbul Stock Exchange, and then in 2013, Istanbul Gold Exchange and Istanbul Stock Exchange merged, and then in 2017, this year, we formed Borsa Istanbul Exchange Group, all clearinghouse and central depository, all the related companies under one roof. Now we have a stronger group. So as you see, we have different affiliations from Kyrgyzstan or in other countries, always have a stake in their, we sit on their boat. So we have a NASDAQ as our partner and our shareholder. They sit on our board. So with international background, Borsa Istanbul is so much stronger than before. Gold is only a part of it, but Borsa Istanbul is a huge group. Okay, our vision is to be the leading integrated marketplace, bringing together investors and ideas. I'll go over only titles because of limited of time. And our board of directors, Mr. Immet Karadağ, and our general manager, Mr. Murat Çetinkaya, would actually come to India, but that they cannot, but they send all greetings and order me to support India in every way. So we will do that. And we have a fully integrated business model. We have equity market, debt securities market, derivatives market, and precious metals and diamond market. It's very vast on not only exchange, but regulation and corporate structure. It's a joint stock company and fully compliant with MIFID, with international European regulation. And it's a full range exchange and controls all post-trade as headings I'm just mentioning. It's an international exchange and state-of-the-art technology. Yeah. So we grow in time, actually, there's our revenues, and it's a profitable business. We have a 52% profit margin last year, which is very great. And we have, our volume is going up every year. In precious metals and diamond market at the downside, you see very low figures. We are a very small part of a big group, actually, because spot gold is a physical business. There's a limit on physical. The other markets are financial, so they seem big. But it's an important market for Turkey, precious metals market. And also, we have a nice international presence, world's 7th largest debt securities market, 7th emerging markets in share traded value, and among the most liquid markets in the world. We are actually 3rd liquid market, which is important. Actually, we have a fast-growing economy for Turkey as well. We are the 17th largest economy in the world. So India is well above us, of course. And this is enough for Borsa Istanbul because we don't have much time. Now I'm going into precious metals and diamond market of Borsa Istanbul. Actually, this slide shows the journey of gold briefly. For people outside of gold, of course, you know, but there are many parties. It's not just setting up the gold exchange. You have to think about gold mines, refineries, and then the international markets, and then domestic gold mines, and the banking sector, jeweler sector. You have to think all in one picture. Actually, Turkish experience with gold started with 1989 with a legislation from Treasury. It's a decree number 32. So it liberalized the FX market and gold market. So as I see you always talk about taxes or something issues, but without liberalizing the FX foreign exchange market and free floating, it's very hard. So, but we do it at the same time. So with this legislation, only gold exchange members can import gold and with no tax. Standard gold I'm talking about. And also came capital markets law and then regulation of Istanbul Gold Exchange and precious metals lending market regulation, regulation of diamond market. They all come in time, of course, not they all come one by one. And refineries, standard of refineries, you have to decide everything. So it's you have to think of legislations before setting up exchange. And also, in 1993, the government decided the setting up of gold exchange. Now you are at this stage, I think. And Treasury issued the decree, and then gave the responsibility to Capital Markets Board in Turkey. It's a government body, Capital Markets Board, like SEC in the United States. So Capital Markets Board did everything afterwards. So I was working in Capital Markets Board. Actually, I was writing the legislations. So we did this. There were no exchange, spot gold exchange in the world. Istanbul Gold Exchange was the first spot gold exchange. So we did all by trial and error. Now you have three exchange you may take into model, but we all did ourselves. We made errors as well. And then in 1995, Istanbul Gold Exchange opened. With 2 years we worked 2 years on legislation, to give you a clue. And in 1995, we opened. And diamond market came very much later. And Borsa Istanbul, precious metals diamond market, is an important step in canalizing the gold into financial system, developing gold-based investment vehicles, as my colleague Emre talked about, an international integration of gold sector in Turkey. And local gold prices became in conformity with international prices. So LBMA price, if you are following LBMA prices, usually if market is not squeezed, $1 difference with LBMA is the exchange price, usually. But sometimes it goes, if the market is squeezed, it goes up. And in precious metals market, we have precious metals market and lending market and diamond market. I'll talk about briefly precious metals market and finish. And only members of the precious metals market of Borsa Istanbul permitted to import standard gold, which is 995 for us and above. And they have to bring the gold to vault of the exchange within 3 days, sorry. And we have in total 101 members, which are banks, precious metals exchange brokerage houses, precious metal companies, and precious metals producing and marketing companies, including refineries. And these are the markets started. We started with gold in 1995, silver added in 1999, and mini gold in 25. And futures market came in 2006. Lending market at 2000, and diamond and precious stone market 2011. Refiner standards, basically LBMA we accept, but Borsa Istanbul decides. We have 2 non-LBMA refineries, Turkish, but they are aiming to be LBMA, so we decided. It's important for international recognition and all standardization. And these are the standards on precious metals, 995 for gold, 995 and above. And the trading method, this is the history. We started with open outcry in 1995. And then online trading session came 2006. And there's a remote connection 1 year later, 2007. A web-based trading system. Now we have a 24-hour web-based trading system. Remotely, all our members can do trade. And the orders are matched in electronic exchange system now, automatically based on price and time priority. And these are the trading rules defined by exchange and order sizes. You have to decide. And clearing, same-day clearing, T+0, which is hard to do, T+0. And we have collateral management from the members. You have to decide how much collaterals for their risks. And we accept collaterals as Turkish lira, US dollar, euro, letter of credit, treasury bonds, or precious metals even. And these are the historical volume and import of Istanbul Exchange. This year is very good. There is well above 350 tons in the exchange. This is for silver. And we have platinum and palladium, but they're not very much demanded. So, and for the diamond market, we have members from the bazaar mostly. But as you see, volume is not much high, so we have to work on it, diamond market. Maybe with the help of India, we will increase it. Okay, I think these are the highlights. Actually, the lending market is a physical lending market. And we do the clearing ourselves. And this is my presentation. So I'd like to sum up. I go very fast with the presentation. I have 7 minutes. But I see India is an important stage. Now I understand it's an important stage for gold. So you don't rush. So you decide. It's 22 years of experience. I'm at the exchange and in the hands-on experience with this gold, setting up gold exchange with 22 years. I still find some wrongdoings. But don't rush. Decide before stepping even before deciding which organization should do it. Is it to be a government company, as we are? It's 100% government company in the beginning. Now we are joint stock company. So we converted later. Or let's say like LBMA, a non-profit organization, which should govern this process, or just a joint stock company in the very beginning? Should there be a one exchange or only spot exchange? Or it's up to you, of course. You have to decide every step before starting the process. And if you don't liberalize, in my view, the foreign exchange market with in line with gold, you will always deal with current account deficit and flow of funds into and out of the country. I know it's a hard decision, but government, you need strong government, because we set up the gold exchange when we have a strong government, not the coalition. So you need strong government support. So against government, you cannot do anything. So government should be clear. So it should put its will. Tax issues, you always talk about tax, but I think it's not prime issue, because government should make its mind clear with tax issue before setting up exchange. Because as you know, gold has two functions, as a commodity and as a financial asset. If you look at it, commodity like iron and steel, it's easy, you may say tax it, of course. It's a financial asset. It's very hard to distinguish gold from foreign exchange, and it's very easy to carry, and it's very liquid everywhere in the world. If you go with standard gold wherever you are, you can easily liquidate it. So it's very easy to smuggle. When you put tax, what you did is only increasing smuggling, actually, what I think. That's all. It's all go underground. And we did the same 22 years ago. And our respected members now, you would call smugglers 22 years ago. It's only a way of look. And for tax issue, as an outsider, excuse me if I'm wrong, I see India is in gold, of course, backdoor of Dubai. So for tax people, as a financial calculation, I suggest look at your tax revenue from gold yearly and then capitalize it as annuity every year. I get this. If it capitalizes in the value of whole Dubai city for India, because you created Dubai, in my view. So with skyscrapers, everything. So it's okay, continue. For whole Dubai, if you can get the tax revenue and capitalize it, it's okay. But if you don't, and I think you don't get too much revenue because the gold is very much smuggled, I know. So it's very easy to decide. It's not wise trying to tax something so liquid and easy to travel, such as gold. So I suggest avoid taxing. That's what I'm saying. And finally, India is really a big country in every way. In population, culture, history, everything. So as we see, so you even have a nuclear power. So you're a big country, of course. And we see India as an elephant. So aim in gold, aim to be an elephant. You're not yet in the gold markets. So it's my humble suggestions. So I finalize my words. Thank you very much, everybody.
Hakan. Can you help?
Yes, sure.
Hakan, thank you so much for that, for the journey that you led us through, the ups and downs, and of course the words of caution, advice, etc., and also the suggestions that you passed on. There, of course, is a lot of learning from Istanbul Gold Exchange that was built long time back, and the way it really has been very successful in the last many years. But coming to you, Som, first. With the Gold Spot Exchange and the Gold Regulatory Body, we have been talking about these two terms, flirting with them, discussions, committees has been happening for the last couple of years now. It's not going to be just a trading exchange. It's going to be a platform where you can have the whole gold value chain actually come across.
You're right, Manisha. It's not just about a trading platform, because these days you can create a marketplace sitting at home, actually. So that's not what it is meant to be. It is meant to be part of the infrastructure, as Adam pointed out this morning. We need infrastructure, and the infrastructure covers Gold Spot Exchange. Many of the people in this room might have missed the presentation made by China yesterday. If you see how the China market developed, the first thing they did was the Shanghai Exchange. Well, everything fell in place around the exchange. So exactly what you say, we are building an ecosystem here.
By that time, I think you should be able to run your mic up.
Yes. I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so since we have Mr. Sahai here with us, let's start with you first of all. You also have been, making a lot of presentations, write-ups, etc., on the Gold Spot Exchange. What is your sense? Where do we need to start with? Because we've seen Turkey, China do that quite successfully, really. And with India as the second largest market after China, what are we lacking? What is the viability here for a Gold Spot Exchange?
So I think at IGPC, India Gold Policy Center at the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, I think 2.5 years ago, we had put out the first paper on setting up the Gold Spot Exchange in India. And one of the things that we said in the paper was that being such a large consumer, we need to be a price setter rather than a price taker. And just that one objective, I think, is more than sufficient for something like a spot exchange to exist, because it allows us to have a reference price. Why should the reference price be set in Shanghai or in London or any other place? And if you look at the Shanghai Gold Exchange, for example, the spot exchange over there, the scale is enormous. You have more than 8,000 institutional participants, more than 6 or 7 million individuals who participate. And when you have that kind of a scale, then inevitably a price gets set which people around the country are more likely to look at and emulate. And it encourages transparency in the industry also. In India, at different places in the country, you will find that there can be, on any given day, a substantial difference in the price of gold across different locations. The price in Jaipur might be different from the price in Kolkata. And those then allow different kinds of unnecessary activities to happen in the country which are not really productive. The challenge to me, so far as gold spot exchange in India is concerned, is largely regulatory, and the issue of how the government and the way it chooses to put in the regulatory mechanism in place. And right now it seems to be kind of getting kicked around like a football between different bodies. You could argue that SEBI should be a regulator, but they may or may not take it up. You could argue that the futures body should be the regulator. That may or may not happen. You could argue that RBI, but RBI is not really interested in gold that much at this point in time. You saw a little bit of that even in the earlier session today when Mr. Hasmukh Adhia was here. I worry sometimes that we have this thing that it is not my baby, it is somebody else's baby, you know. It is Ministry of Commerce, or it is Ministry of Finance, or it is Ministry of Company Affairs.
So, Mr. Sahai, just coming to that point, I remember World Gold Council also putting out something of a self-regulated exchange, perhaps. Is that a possibility? Would you want to take up so many after you have your views on that? Or you think the ministers won't let it go?
Unfortunately, in India, I don't think we are ready. We haven't yet matured enough, both in terms of the industry and in terms of the government thinking for self-regulation to work at this point in time. So we need to find a way to push different arms of the government together into getting us that regulator in place quickly rather than over any length of time.
I think that also brings us to Gold Board, doesn't it, Som?
Yes, that's right. Because unless you have a central coordinating agency, we are going to see these kind of forums, good engagement, and as we always say, you know, a lot of talk, but limited action. And we will be coming back to the same points. So we just need a central authority. Self-regulation, I agree with Arvind. It's we will have a form called self-regulated entity, and in substance, the same set of authorities who are controlling gold now will be controlling the exchange, and it will be a non-starter. So I think we need to distinguish in India in particular, form and substance. There's a big difference. We all know that.
Mr. Jindal, getting you in the conversation here, we of course keep talking about the gold spot exchange as has been in the various forums. Where do you see a major push now that is needed to make it a reality? Because we've all established the fact that it would be useful for the jewelers, for the consumers, B2B jewelers, exporters, importers, everybody. So what is the final push that is needed in that direction now?
Thank you, Manisha. I was thinking that you will not be able to see me at all.
See you.
I am at such a distance from you, but you could see me. Thank you very much. As I look at this morning session, which Finance Secretary will also be useful in reducing the timeline for this. Because what we have been able to do this morning, as I look at, to put it in his mind that gold is more important than what he was thinking before coming here. From all angles, job creation, etc., which he knew, but things came in right perspective when he visited here and he heard everybody. Second thing, it is something, if we have to go to next level, there are steps we have to take, and gold spot exchange is one of the steps. We cannot arrive at the next level, higher level, without that. Without infrastructure, how can we do it? Or it will be so slow a process that we will take time and time. So things have come into right perspective. It will be win-win for all the stakeholders, and it is inevitable to my mind that we must have it now. We all need to work hard. We should not think that it will not happen or it will take longer time. We should keep trying. Perseverance is the key. With such nice team in the ministry as well, what we see now. In my 43 years of business history, I have not seen such a nice team. They respond so well. Like Mr. Manoj Dwivedi, to mention one name. You tell him, if he's convinced, he will say, I'll look into it. So such officers, they are here. It is from our side now that we have to keep the efforts going, persevering, and to make it easier for them to get all the studies done properly and present it to them that this is the real fact and this is how it will behave, this is how it will help the industry. I don't see, they are asking, always they are asking for suggestions from us, always. This was never before. This has changed in the last 3 years only. So we are on the right track, right direction, and this will, I see this happening very quickly. It will not take much time.
Sanjeev, let me come to you now. The time is ripe, as we all seem to be hearing right now, and Hakan made a excellent presentation on how Istanbul has done it. What is your sense? He spoke about Dubai as well, on the tax part of it, etc. But what has been the learning there, and how do you see India really taking in?
Yeah, if you look at, I'll give you some examples to just let you know what points I'm making. If you look at overall DGCX on the gold products which we have gone ahead and on the, primarily DGCX is a derivative exchange. So we have many products which have interactions with each other at various levels. So just on the gold side, we have some of the international benchmark contracts listed. We have an Indian contract listed. Then we have a Chinese gold futures contract listed. All these are derivative contracts. When people face these markets and they trade in, let's say, China, US, India, and so on, they are fundamentally trying to, when they physically trade those markets, they're trying to play the physical demand and supply scenarios in those markets, depending upon where they are getting the supply from and where they are supplying it to. These derivative contracts, though they are financial contracts, cash settle products, but we bring in more efficiency in all the trade because we have everything on the same platform. By bringing in margin offsets and a lot of other things. Talking about physical contract, we have a Dubai deliverable spot gold contract currently on the platform. So you buy and take delivery in Dubai. That's what the contract is in a nutshell. We have been able to, with the help of DMCC, which has its own trade flow systems and DGD system which it controls, we have very set mechanism which we are using with the help of the other entities, basically using the ecosystem which is available around us to promote a contract and make it available, discover the price, which is very important. So for example, if I ask for India price, what is India gold price? People look at MCX, people look at Ahmedabad spot, maybe polled by MCX or generally through various platforms, OTC platforms, or et cetera, et cetera. I mean, so if people look at, let's say, what is Dubai price, I mean, of course, I can say that now you can look at DGCX spot gold price, that is Dubai price because it's getting traded and getting delivered. And with the learning, we have been able to, we have taken the feedback, we are going to convert the spot gold contract into a Sharia product. Sharia products are quite relevant in that geography in Middle East. So we are converting that subject to regulatory approvals. We are going to convert this product into Sharia product contract. Now, do these products or do these initiatives exist in the market? Of course, yes. They're much more, I would still say yes. Are there Sharia products available in the market? Yes, there are sukuks and everything else, even on the gold side. But the point is they are not as structured, or they are not at least present at the same platform which people can use it easily. the access or the scalability is very tough. I mean, if I'm with a bank which is providing this product, okay, fine, I can use it. But if it is not, if I'm with some other bank which is not really into, let's say, those kind of products, then I don't get it. But this is one such platform where a lot of participants access through various broker members, clearing members, and so on, access those products. And they can easily, very easily see the prices, they can figure out a lot of things. So yeah, this is what I can say.
Let me now pull in the bankers, Again, as we have been saying, there's a lot of talk about the intent, yeah? We have been speaking about it for 2 years, maybe another 5 years we'll be speaking about this. Everybody is happy, and everybody thinks that it is a need. Let me come back to Amar and Ramkrishnan, okay? Both of you, I will put this question. What do you think should be the first step towards making this into an action? Who should take the initiative? We can have another forum tomorrow and we will have the same set of intent. So let me come to Amar and then I'll come to Ramkrishnan. You two are bullion bankers, you're supplying gold here. Why does India need an exchange? Who should take the leadership? And what is the next step?
So, Som, thank you so much. I think it's a very critical question. I think I've been here for the last 1.5 days, and after hearing some of the speech, particularly from Mr. Pandya and rest of the people, I think the way I see, and just I think Mr. Sahai said 2 lines, I think people know what we need. People know this is all required for the growth of whether gem and jewelry export market, whether it is domestic market. In my view, I think first thing is required a board or anything which will address rest of the thing. Unless this happen, as Mr. Sahai said, it will go from one place to another and nothing will come up. And I just heard from the Borsa gentleman, he said at the initial stage, the exchange was owned by government. So it is a very, I think, very critical learning, and somebody is sharing with us. Second thing, we have SGE. As you said at the beginning, before the China market opens up, the first deliverable was Shanghai Gold Exchange. And around there, the whole ecosystem and the business, which we so-called very successful business, has evolved. However, in India, I have been involved with the industry for the last 18 years. What I see is continue to be a distribution center, country to import and distribute to the consumer and industry. And we haven't seen except few developments like MCX, where we can see at least what the price India is trading for this month, following month, etc. We have some access to some of the, whether it is Bombay Bullion Association, prices, etc. So I think this is a very critical thing for, not for the price discovery, transparency, also accessibility, which Mr. Pandya asked about, and some of the jewelers, like one of the very small exporters saying, I didn't get gold for my export, and hence we decided to. So I think these are, this spot exchange, and to put, coming to your question, first thing we need to do, I think we have BIS working very well. We have policy center, he exactly knows what to be delivered. WGC is helping with all experience. We also have refinery, some more refinery on the job. We have banks ready to do their job. What we need, a central place who can come forward and deliver policy. In my view, it has to be either Finance Ministry or RBI, because gold is currency and commodities. So in my view, this has to be taken very seriously. Otherwise, we'll have this conversation again next year in the same forum.
Ramkrishnan.
First of all, thanks for the opportunity that you've given us. I speak for, not only for ICBC, I speak for the Indian bullion bankers as well. So what are the 3 things that we require? You're talking about transparency of prices, market penetration, and also compliance, greater compliance. The first 2 aspects is related to the industry and the smaller jewelers. And the second aspect is more related to the government, in which we comply to whatever we want to. And transparency of prices, when we say, we're talking about one India price. We have a China good delivery price. We have a Dubai price. We have a London price. We need one India price. On the basis of that price, people can trade in the markets. And as far as the banking industry is concerned, there's a whole gamut of market availability for us to access. So it's not limited to maybe 100 clients or 200 clients. There could be much more in terms of what we can do because of the fact that the KYC ideally should be handled by the exchange itself. Now, if I tell about the Shanghai Gold Exchange or the Borsa Istanbul, both the cases, the KYC will be handled obviously by the exchange. The members, as far as the exchange is concerned, will have some kind of a criteria as far as adding them as a member. And then you have something called the good delivery bars. Ultimately, we have to have a standard good delivery bar. We do not need to depend on the outside Western in terms of, we can just take the know-how, we can understand them, we can seek their guidance. At some point of time, we need to have a good delivery bar and a good delivery standard which can be delivered on the exchange. Ultimately, we could also export it. Why not make in India?
Yeah, go.
So, that point is very valid, yes. From members to what the products are going to be, the marketing, clearing, delivery, all of that, of course, is something that we need to be talking about. Yes, Mr. Sahai.
I just had a thought on Som's question earlier and kind of pulling in the point that Mr. Jindal was making, that this government tends to listen and ask for feedback. So anything like a spot exchange needs the support of all sections of the gold industry. So whether it is the gems and the jewelry people, whether it is the bullion banks or the bullion traders or the refiners or the CPTCs. So since the government is so ready to listen, if there is a common viewpoint that these different federations can bring together, Mr. Pandya over here, his equivalent in the other federations get together, maybe brokered by the World Gold Council, bring them into one room, get a plan, and take that as a gold spot exchange plan to the three main ministries which are involved.
So the government is listening, make the right noise.
The government is indeed listening.
Right people.
Then
one more aspect as far as the exchange is concerned. Whether you see any other exchanges across the world, bankers have been part to it. They provide liquidity. They are allowed to trade on the exchanges. Unfortunately, we need to have changes in the regulations as far as the Banking Regulation Act is concerned to allow banks, if not on all commodities, limited commodities to trade, especially gold and silver, because of the fact that we are already importers. At a later stage, if there is a possibility of the standard bars being traded, we can actually purchase it locally and also do interbank trading as well.
I completely agree with you. In fact, IGPC has shared a note with the DEA where we have made some very specific clause-wise suggestions for changes in the RBI Act in relation to gold. Now, I don't know whether the ministry is going to do something about it or not, but we have made those suggestions.
Right. So I like to throw some more light as far as the Shanghai Gold Exchange is concerned because I come from ICBC.
Ramki, can we come back to you
sure.
later? Yeah, go ahead.
Shivanshu, let me come to you first because everybody has spoken and we would really want a perspective on the exchange right now because when the whole thing about the gold spot exchange had started, we know that commodity exchanges had shown interest. A lot of bullion federations and associations had shown interest as well to launch this. Where is that now? How is it going to be different from a proper commodity derivative exchange?
Absolutely. So I think, firstly, I think we should stop seeing spot in isolation. I mean, if you look at spot and futures, they are so cohesively interlinked with each other. You look at the GOFO. I mean, where is the scope, if you look at it, to look at it differently? I say that first. The commodity exchange network in India, MCX itself has seen more than 100 tons of deliveries of gold. The spot limb is already attached to the futures contracts that we have. The fraternity which will benefit from a spot exchange is the same fraternity who is hedging the price risk on MCX today. But we need certain additions. First and foremost, we need a regulator. If you look at the SCRA, the act which controls securities, while it goes on to talk about ready delivery, it actually isolates it from the purview. So ultimately, just like Ramki said, that they want to participate on domestic exchanges. Why? Because that is the perfect hedge for them. So we have also, represented this in the Niti Aayog, the Transforming Gold, subcommittee, that banks should be permitted to participate for the GMS exposure. RBI guidelines were awaited, and we have actually submitted that they should be issued. Coming to what exactly is required and where the current status is, as Manisha asked, first and foremost, a regulator is essential, given the history of how spot markets have recently, recent memory. Second is institutions and banks need to participate on it to make it liquid. Third is, as far as the state list versus the central list is concerned, APMCs and spot being a state subject versus a gold cannot be viewed in the same light as an agricultural commodity. So number three, the taxation aspect has to be looked at. A lot of us have talked about a benchmark price. So, MCX has served for the past 13, 14 years as a benchmark price in many ways. At that time, there was no GST. But now with GST having come in, the difference really is only the logistics price, the cost of logistics. So we're already seeing a sort of a salience building up for a central price that spot exchange will also help create. The most important thing is that it will help monetize this 20,000 tons via recycling, for which the gold standard, the Indian good delivery standard, which is required. MCX has been part of the working group. We are trying to help evolve that. The final draft, along with IBJA, BFI, the leading experts, WGC, we have all tried to evolve a standard, which is at a final stage. That is also equally required. And I again say that it will only work when all the weapons in the armory are present together, like they are in other exchanges globally. You have deferred swaps, you have deferred delivery, you have futures, you have options. All those things need to be present and working together to make it a vibrant spot exchange. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just come to Rahul. I think we wanted to come to you last because you have the last word in this, right? You're traders. Rahul, tell me, in India, if we require something, if it was desperately needed, don't you think this very enterprising community of gold traders would have already formed it? What is the impediment, and therefore why this sudden talk? Is it just in these forums, or is it really required at the ground level? I mean, you are the right person, you're a bullion trader, so tell us.
Thank you. We are representing both bullion traders and refiners both. And yes, you're right, there's 1 million people who are involved into it, and they feel that tomorrow if the exchange comes, then it'll be difficult for them to be in the supply chain. One of the value addition which can come in, being a GJPC forum, and I'm a jewelry exporter myself, GJPC has been fighting for export purpose gold to small and big exporters since last 20-25 years. If a contract for export purpose gold is also there in the spot exchange, it is going to change demographics. It is going to resolve the challenge for the gold availability for small exporters through the exchange to a great deal, and will add the business to the bullion dealers, which as of now is only with the bankers. It's only the bankers who supply export purpose gold to the jewelers. The moment we have a contract dealing with the export purpose gold on the exchange in this spot exchange, it is going to add business, it is going to add ease to the jewelry exporters. As we had Mr. Adhia here today morning, and he was saying that jewelry exports must promote. So with this process, the micro and small exporters are going to add substantially. And with GST coming in picture, already we have OTC platforms adding up. There were bullion dealers who were having the branches across the country, say 5 branches, 10 branches in over the states. Now they've started their OTC platforms because they can store the stock anywhere. And the EFP, as what MCX was mentioning, that EFP variation is the only thing what they quote on their platforms. Probably a phased manner start of the exchange is on the card, as what you were pointing out, that where should we start next from. Probably a state, Gujarat, where already a lot of bullion dealers have their OTC platforms, is the right place to start it with, so that the people already using OTC platforms can switch to a state-based spot market exchange.
But you really believe, Rahul, the question was, do you really believe it is required, or is it just something to be nice about, There's something nice to have, there is something need to have. Where would you fit the gold spot exchange?
it's absolutely need of the hour, because as of now, information flow is all person to person over the whole supply chain. So this needs to be sorted out, and the people feel that, there are people in the supply chain who feel that the moment it is added, they may move out to business from the supply chain. But if their concerns are kept into the process, if we do a kind of pre-information to the supply chain before we really come up with a document onto this, will really save people's jobs going off from this.
Okay. Hakan, this one is to you. You've heard everybody now. I mean, we've heard your presentation as well. You know where we come from. There are various concerns. A lot is being done. Just to have the learning from you on this, how long was it before you guys started talking about it and finally were up and running?
Okay, as in my presentation, we worked on legislation for two years. And then set up exchange. But in my view, everything is changed. It's 22 years back. Now, what has changed? Technology, too much. So it's on your side. So you made in shorter time. For India, especially as a plus, I see English is official language. So you can make legislations very much easier, and you can learn and distribute everywhere, so you follow world more than us. So it's a plus also. But the liberalization is very much minus. So my suggestion, if I were you and at your time, I would set up a gold board, as it is suggested. And on top of it, I would appoint a strong man from government. But not only strong, but with the authority. So whatever he says, it will be done. Government should accept this. Or otherwise, it's just the advisor. And then this board, don't decide anything before knocking door of the existing exchanges, including Borsa Istanbul, where we are very happy to support you. If necessary, pay and get advisors from that exchanges. Or even further, I would say, but not as an exchange person, because I'm not in the management, but I would knock on the doors, even lie in the doors, and say, give us your share, so let me be a partner with you, and sit on your board to learn. I would do that. I would suggest, maybe for China, it's not possible as a state company. I don't know Dubai, but for Istanbul, we are very open, and we wait. Even further, come and put some money, sit on our board after we set up. So this kind of things will help you more, because you know India, I don't know, so do not copy any system. So India should create its own system, so you should be active. Just copying it, 100%, I'm sure you will be a failure. Gold board at first stage.
Well, thank you, Hakan, for that. Just taking a previous comment that you made on whether we do need a gold spot exchange, or is it just nice to feel about it. So I'm just going to take a vote quickly on the panel itself. Do we need a gold exchange?
Find out
everybody,
who says
do
no.
we need a gold spot
Just
exchange?
find who says no.
Sorry?
Just find who says no.
Dubai, I don't see Dubai raising the hand.
Should we ask why should not we have?
That'll be better.
No, the other thing I want to know is how much time do you see the gold exchange coming in? Because we've been talking about it for the last 2 years now. Next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Can we have that also?
As soon as the regulator is ready, the functionality,
That is very vague.
clearing and settlement is already there.
Sorry, I just want to add one previous question which we were which you had asked about how do we go about it, how do we start it? Just though not exactly suggesting anything, but I think we already have some of the examples, because I think at some point of time NSE was set up, then commodities exchanges were set up, so there were of course ministry was involved. If it makes sense, for example, in this case, let's say gold, if more ministries or departments or stakeholders are involved, I mean, I think the part which I think Amar said initially in his remarks, that maybe one committee which probably can comprise of industry plus all those departments and everything else, that can be a good starting point.
Just so things are clear, as the World Gold Council, we issued this report on a case for gold. I mean, it was not our report, it was the opinions of the... And now we have a steering committee, exactly as you say, with all the bullion banks, with the refiners, all the associations, we are going to come out with a report which is agnostic to the service provider. That's the whole idea. We are taking a lot of inputs from them, but what we said is let's decide what the end consumer wants, then build back, and then the thing will be there. We have done it successfully in London, so we're doing that. So exactly the point he's made. Yeah.
So, you know, we were having a conversation in the morning on a breakfast table. Mr. Pandya was also there, and we were talking on what form do we see the gold spot exchange as? Is it, I mean, of course, it has to be encompassing all. We are looking at a wider range, taking the whole value chain, economy along with us here. So, Mr. Jindal, if you want to start talking on this first, and then, of course, Som, you can give your comments here. What are we talking about here? Integration into the financial products? Are we looking at something that comes together as a whole, gold being a mainstream thing here? And also, what are we looking at in the gold spot exchange? Is it physical? Is it derivatives? Is it not exactly hedging? It's more about deliveries, buying, selling, etc.
As I look at, this is something which is lacking in our system just now. And once we are able to complete it, this will give boost to the total business. We need a complete range of products, and this one is lacking. To make the market complete, there are different kind of needs in the market. This will fulfill the need of everybody. This will support the need of everybody. And how it works in India is, how long will it take is, how soon you announce it, the target date. If you want, you announce the target date, and it happens then. Until you announce the target date, it doesn't happen. We keep taking time, and it keeps stretching. So best way would be, as all of us, we were discussing about the board thing also, to persuade, to keep persuading, to discuss, and maybe MCX could take the lead also to take the product along, because it has all the infrastructure with itself. Only thing is one more contract is to be added. For what kind of legislation is required, etc., can be fulfilled very quickly for that. And it seems they are ready also. I can read from his face also that he is ready to grab it. So we should be looking at something of that sort.
Yeah, no, I don't want, I mean, just in a lighter vein, you said how long will it take in India? India, we have a time. I'm just looking at this schedule given today. We were supposed to break for lunch at 1:15. We are at, 1:45. So, but it still happens. It will happen, but the time schedules are a little this, and you just take a little pain, just wait, don't look at the clutter of the knives, just hold on with patience. You will hear something nice. Exactly the same thing with the gold spot.
Mr. Somo, we can allow 2 extra hours to the happening of exchange also. We'll allow them 2 more hours for them also.
Allow me to respond to Mr. Jindal's earlier comment, please. So I think, Jindal Sahab, definitely our first attempt was that whether a spot contract, T or T+2 contract, within the SCRA, so our first engagement with the regulator was on that. If, however, a separate exchange has to be set up for spot, if that is where the entire industry, because we are not separate from the industry, if that is what everyone wants, then again, the moment there's a regulator, one should always go for that.
Sorry, excellent point you made. I know Manisha wants to close, she's nudging me, but this is precisely, Shivanshu, why we said let's collect the people. It's not about whether you need a spot contract or you need a T+3, T+11. Yes, that is all experts like you will come in. Right now, it is about what does the industry want. Let us be agnostic to whether MCX will own it, government will own it, or any other exchange will own it. Will it be integrated? No. First, see what the requirement of a spot gold exchange is. Look at the, as Rahul said, look at the ecosystem around it, good delivery standards. You know, we are not allowed to export bars. That should be allowed. So look at all this and then come back to the service providers. So it is too early to say whether it should be a T+2 contract, spot contract, it is 100 grams, 50 grams, etc. That is precisely why we have the steering committee, listening to everybody. We have taken a lot of inputs from you too, although you are, we know that, you know, as a service provider, you are still not probably a part of the committee. That's what we are going to do, just so that Manisha knows.
Thank you so much for that, Soma. And me and Soma had discussed that we will keep it under 1 hour of the discussion and not really come between you and the lunch there. But I will quickly give everybody 10 seconds to quickly wrap it up on their thought on the gold exchange. Whatever comes top of your mind, your suggestion to the government. Anji.
Sir, I was very impressed with your presentation and also a few comments that went along with that. If I ask you one thing, that what are 2 cautions that we need to take before we embark on this? So those cautions, I'm sure when I go and meet Mr. Adia, is going to ask me. So give us those important cautions that we need to take. Because, you know, we as Indians, you see, we are used to jumping. See, if I don't know the swimming, but you give me the pool, I'll straightway jump into it and learn swimming thereafter. So, you know, just tell us what are the cautions that we need to take. And I'm very impressed with your presentation. Thank you.
Very much.
Very valid.
Okay, so thank you very much. We did jump as well, as Turkish people. So it's better you learn from us. What are the cautions? The very first thing, how government, the macro environment, how government wants the effect of physical flow of gold into country and out of country, physical flow of funds, current account, government should decide it. Okay, our government decided open up, liberalize the economy. So if your government doesn't want this, so do not do as we do. Just find some other model. Because our government decided to open up the economy, so there will be, in that case, we will need foreign exchange. And where will foreign exchange come? And exports and tourism. They calculated, okay, they said we are ready. So free float Turkish lira, so we did this. If your government is ready to do that, it's very easy for you, just operational, collect operational people, so exchanges, so someone from market, set up a gold board, and before setting up gold board, do not do anything. And that board should decide, because I don't know India, but the macro decision should be given before, so it will form which model this board should follow. So if there's a controlled economy, it should be a different one. But if it liberalized economy like us, it's very easy. Come to us, so we will cooperate with you very easily. So, if you choose the control economy, again you can come us, but we will help you in a very limited manner. So the government is the most important factor, because they decide the macro environment, they decide tax issues and liberalize the economy. If they don't, so you will act in another way, but gold board will decide this. Don't jump into exchanges, give the authority, because you don't know which format, 100% government ownership or already existing exchange will do that. The board will decide, I don't know now. But don't forget, it's a physical business. Physical business is very different from financial business. After we merged with Borsa Istanbul, we had very much difficulty, as somebody said. Vault, do they operate Vault? Don't know. It's a very different issue. If you organize a meeting about vaulting, we would talk with days, and you will, even if you decide, you will work for months. Only vaulting. Where will it be? Close to airport, close to market, security. So each issue you should debate and you should decide before you go, before you decide anything. So refinery, which refinery? So LBMA, but in India case, or as in Turkey case, there are some refineries, good quality, but not much capital, cannot go to LBMA. Do we have to help this and accept this? So this board will decide this. So it's very, but do not forget, it's a physical business, very different from financial business.
A lot of caution coming in from Hakan there. So Shivanshu onwards, we will take, Mr. Jindal, do you want to start?
I just want to say that Shivanshu we don't let you go home today. Either you tell us that you can do it, and by what is the reasonable time when you can do it.
Or you don't get the lunch otherwise.
You don't get out of the hall.
You don't get the
today.
lunch today.
Yes.
So, Mr. Jindal, 10 seconds to everybody. Top of your mind on gold spot exchange. 10 seconds only.
No, my thought process is, if MCX can do it, they have got 14 years of experience of working into India so successfully. I have seen all these 14 years. There has never been a wrong thing happened at MCX, touch wood. So why they cannot do it? I think they would be more suited to take it up. And if they cannot do it, then we should be looking for another option.
Point taken, sir. Shivanshu, you want to go next?
Thank you, Jindal Saab, for your continued patronage and love. No, I heartily reciprocate. No, lunch I'll get, no, sir? Oh.
Maybe.
Give us a reasonable date.
No, my only submission is absolutely right, sir. We submit our, commitment to the industry, and we have, those years of experience is one. We remain committed. Only thing is that internally what we understand is the regulator is absolutely important for this aspect. So while the readiness of systems is just another script, like you said, the clearing and settlement in any way takes place bi-monthly, monthly in some cases of our contracts. So I think once that clarity comes, one should look at going ahead.
So, Mr. Sahai, you go next, please.
So my main concern would be that since I get the sense that there is more or less a consensus that everybody thinks that we should be going ahead with a spot exchange, and I want to come back to something that Mr. Pandya had said, that is that Indians, we tend to jump into something. So once the consensus is there, then now we should make haste with caution. And in that, the key would be getting some critical clauses in the regulatory framework to be of the appropriate type. And some of those clauses will pertain to the linkages between the spot exchange, the regulator, and the market participants, and the existing futures and options markets. So one would need to think through that very, very carefully.
So in my view, I think, of course, regulation, creating an environment or regulatory environment is key. Also creating the ecosystem around, which will lead to, of course, a vibrant exchange, positively, all the issues which we all have been discussing to a certain extent will be addressed. I think one thing I would like to address also, India being India, such a large country, we also need to carefully think through logistics, because somebody sitting in Kolkata, Jaipur, Coimbatore need the material, and then that is where I think, so there is a lot of opportunity for everyone in supply chain, but I think key thing also is to look at logistics as other than regulation, etc.
Just taking from Amar, I think one of the aspects, especially on the logistics side, like and on the price discovery side, people will have one India price, so to say, and how logistically or pricing wise, premium discount wise it can be done. All those structure potentially can be looked at. Just one, another point which I think Mr. Jindal hinted at was when Indian commodity futures exchanges were set up, MCX, NCDX, etc. Especially on the agriculture side, there was a time when exchanges were set up, but the physical infrastructure on the quality specification, determinations, and everything else was pretty low. So potentially, I mean, it's the other way around. Potentially, setup of the exchange can trigger that thing in gold industry even more, though it is a much standardized product, but it can help in putting more structure to it.
So caution is good. However, if there are good regulations, then it makes it easier for all of us to trade. As far as Amar said about logistic, that also has to be regulated, because at this point of time, we do have vaulting locations through certain security agencies. Are they regulated? Now, in case of a Shanghai Gold Exchange, they are regulated as well. So these aspects need to be considered along with the transparency of prices. ultimately pricing is the main issue. So if there is a transparent price, one India price, which is good enough for all, then the spot exchange will be successful.
Rahul, last words as usual.
Thank you. Indian refiners will shape up by next year to be ready regarding the spot exchange. So it will be matching the LBMA standards, OECD and IRMS standards. Again, I'll recommend that export purpose contract should be there so that any small exporter who needs 100 grams, 500 grams of export purpose gold should be able to get from the contract. GJPC has been burdened for this subject since last 20, 25 years. Through this process, if it is solved, it will lead to employment generation to a great extent. A government company should not be there because government has failed in its business. Indian government is selling its businesses. I mean, bringing a government doing this business again, Indian government doing this business, I don't think will be a great idea in future. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody all. And Som, before we go, I think your 10 seconds as well. We have been speaking about product, regulators, specifications, instrument. Bullion banks is yet another thing we have been discussing for the last couple of years now. What is top of your mind?
Top of mind is, just after this forum, get into the steering committee work. The steering committee is just a few people like this. Everybody can't sit, but this is a joint discussion. So pull in the ideas, go with a concrete plan to the government and say, this is what the industry wants. These are the regulatory changes. And if you do this, we will then find service providers, and there are enough expertise in the market in terms of providing the service. What the government does not know is, what do you want? I think that's what it is, a framework.
Well, those are various things that we've listed out from our panelists, and we are headed towards lunch with that last one question. Sure.
We won't be more than 5 minutes, definitely, because we can hear quite a lot of noise.
Yeah, I'm Sachin Jain. I'm a retailer. Sir, spot exchange will take some time. So meanwhile, Mr. Mehta, if you can increase the number of delivery centers and have smaller contracts like monthly or weekly or fortnightly contracts, it will be like a spot exchange.
Yes, a very valid point. And I think in the preparation of GST, we've actually further, ramped up our, vaulting setup or service providers list. And that has been done actually with a plan of further looking at delivery centers only. So we're actively considering a few. As far as shorter duration is concerned, yes, again, I think although there is a limit of number of days, beyond which only it becomes a futures contract. So we already have a monthly contract in the 100 gram bar, and we have a kilo contract which is bi-monthly, and also the smaller gold guinea. Having said that, it's a good suggestion, sir. Shorter duration, when you look at it with GST and multiple delivery centers. So thanks, we'll come back to you.
Another point is the logistics. Even if you have a low number of delivery centers, if you have a proper collaboration with some logistic companies, you can reach out at each and every corner of the India.
I'm assuming he's here for lunch. Do you want to connect with him offline, please?
Yeah, I'll
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate
Thanks.
that.
Sudesh, you want to make a quick point? Or?
You can shout.
No lunch yet.
Oh,
my point is same as I've discussed in the earlier forums as well. Given the challenges that we have for vast country as ours, why don't we directly start looking at a distributed ledger system? And because that is the way forward, or rather that will be the first step before starting off a spot exchange, because that is where you get to see what are the various hiccups and how do we manage all those points. And nowhere we have been yet talking about a distributed ledger system, because if you have a distributed ledger system, you have complete transparency of the or the last mile traceability of the gold that is coming in.
Sudesh, we will take this point. I think it's a very valid point. We'll take it up in the steering committee and see whether this is phase one. Yeah, definitely it is a very valid point, and we will take it up in the steering committee. I think there are bankers, many of us are sitting in this committee. We will take this up, certainly. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Somasundaram. Thank you, Manisha. And thanks to all the panelists. And to felicitate the panelists, I would like to invite on stage Nitin Khandelwal ji, Chairman, All India Gem and Jewelry Federation. Mahesh Jain, President UP Sarafa Association, and Bablu Dey, Secretary Swan Shilp Bachao Committee. आपको इनको देना है। बबलू जी, आपको इनको देना है। अभी आप लोग रुक। Meanwhile, we can take a 30-minute lunch break since we're already running out of time. And I also wanted to announce that we have on display 49 gold, which is 999.9 purity, being displayed by MMTC PAMP, the only refinery in India which is recognized by LBMA.
Announce that after this next session is complete, then there is an open house. So everybody there will be 45-minute session of open house where everybody can raise their questions.
आप में से बहुत सारे लोग कल से शायद अपने सवाल पूछना चाह रहे हैं लेकिन नहीं पूछ पा रहे हैं, तो हम आपको बताना चाहते हैं कि अगले सेशन के बाद मेरे ख्याल से एक पूरा 1 घंटा ओपन हाउस रहेगा, ओपन हाउस सेशन. So whatever questions you have regarding any topic out of all the sessions, you can keep for that open house and those questions shall be answered. Thank you.